Good morning, San Diego and beyond. Welcome on in, everyone. Happy Thursday. Annie and Elsten show right here on 97.3 The Fan, San Diego's #1 sports station, taking you all the way until 2 p.m. After that, we turn the reins over to Gwyn and Chris and Scraby, and then a little Scraby Chronicles later tonight. So excited to be here with you. My name is Annie Heilbrand, joined today by Braden Suprenant. Craig Elsten is out again today, but we're excited to take you for the next 4 hours and spend some time with you talking about everything from college football to the NFL. We're going to have the great Jake Peavy on at 10:35 to talk a little bit about his induction into the Breitbart Hall of Fame, as well as all things baseball. It's always good to catch up with Jake Peavy. And of course, we're going to get into some news of the day as we've got some arbitration numbers trickling in, and we'll get to all of that here in a moment. First, I want to welcome on in Braden Suprenant. How you doing today, Braden?
Doing well for a Thursday. It's been a long week, so it's been hard to keep track of the days. But today is, in fact, Thursday. And for all you football fans out there, we got football every single day from here until Monday. Thursday, we got the college football playoff tonight. Penn State, Notre Dame tomorrow night, or tomorrow afternoon, really late afternoon. They're 4:30 kicks. Ohio State and Texas in freezing Fort Worth. Arlington in the DFW area. That'll be tomorrow. Saturday, we got 2 NFL games. Sunday, we got 3. And Monday, we have 1 with the Rams and the Vikings. So it should be a fun next couple of days. I mean, I'm excited. If you work from home, weekend starts today with some football action.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You just turn the channel on and you keep it there. I'm excited. Like, I don't, ever since the Chargers left, I'm not as into the NFL. But there is something about playoff games and upsets, and of course with college football as well, that always makes it a little fun. So it'll be good to get into some of those topics and some of those games as well. And I do agree, it's been a weird week. It's been a long week, but that also might be because we were off for a few weeks for the holidays.
Off for a few weeks, had the random days off. I think it's been a long week for a lot of people out there getting back into the swing of things for 2025.
It is. But we are in the thick of it. We are in 2025. Today is the 9th. We are heading toward spring training. And that was another thing, all the news this week with the lawsuits and what's going on with the Padres. Finally, some baseball news today, at least a little bit that we're going to get into. But, like we mentioned yesterday, the whole Roki Sasaki decision 2025 is upon us next week for the next 2 weeks, depending on when he decides. And then we're heading into FanFest on February 1st, and then spring training. Pitchers and catchers are going to report. So I'm excited to see what happens, or what hopefully happens between now and then. I know some moves need to be made. But let's get into the arbitration a little bit, because that is going to be a topic, especially for Padres fans, that you're going to want to know about. And I think it's always such an interesting topic. Arbitration is this beast upon itself that is contentious. It is ugly. I'll get into a little bit of those details a little bit later, but let's start with the news for the Padres, which is that they've got 6 players who are needing to either go to arbitration or settle in terms of money with where they're going to be at with the team in terms of this year. So they've already started to settle some of them. We've got Luis Campusano. The news just came in. They settled at $1 million, so they avoided arbitration by doing that. Luis Arraez and the Padres, they agreed to a $14 million salary for 2025, so they avoided arbitration there as well. Adrian Morejon, Kevin Acee just reported $2 million contract for 2025, and you can see some of those other ones from Robert Murray. So they're already starting the process of settling with these numbers. And Braden, you were saying right before on that those are pretty in line with what they were kind of projected to be at.
Yeah, with FanGraphs roster resource payroll had.
Yeah.
Very, very similar. Arraez was around 14, he got 14. Adrian Morejon was around 2, he got 2. Campusano, I think, might have been just under $1 million. He ends up getting $1 million. The other ones to write down real quick before they get Cease King and maybe Adam done. Cease projected to get 13.7. According to FanGraphs, King 7.9 and Adam 5.3. Those are the projections. So if those all kind of hit relatively the same, then the estimated payroll that the Padres had on this website will be very accurate.
Yeah, so it's good to know. It's good to kind of compare those numbers. Cease is one where, if he doesn't like the number, or their party doesn't like the number, or they can't come to a reasonable number, that one, I think of all of them, maybe has a chance to go to arbitration. But remember, AJ Preller has never gone to arbitration. It is a gold star for the baseball operations department over there on Park Boulevard.
Park Boulevard.
Park Boulevard.
Park Avenue, a little different.
little different parks there. It's a gold star for AJ Preller and Josh Stein and that baseball operations department because they are able to avoid arbitration every single year. They're able to do just what they've been doing this morning, which is come to terms with players on numbers that are reasonable for both sides, that are palatable for both sides. And by doing that, they avoid arbitration. And that is a really wild thing to think about. During AJ Preller's entire tenure with the Padres, they have never gone to arbitration with a player. So if this happens this year, that they go to arbitration with anyone, it will be the first time. We already know it won't happen with those first three players that we talked about. Michael King is also one that's a little iffy because he doesn't have many comps. He made a very low, what was it? $3.15 million last year. So supposedly, what did you say about 10 million? No, he was
going to get like just under that. He was going to get like 7.9. He's a converted reliever, so it's like he doesn't get like all of the perks of being a starter for so long.
Exactly, like the whole rotation boost that you might get, right?
Correct.
So I think that they'll probably get those numbers done. But you look at Luis Ariz, and I do want to point out that just because they're getting these numbers settled doesn't mean that these players can't be traded. There is still a possibility that those players will be traded. It's just that when they're traded, they have a number attached that is guaranteed that the other team that they're trading for, like say they traded with the Yankees. I don't think that's happening. Braden and I went into it yesterday. But say the Yankees traded for Luis Ariz, they'd have to pay him that $14 million, So
Correct.
You can still trade players. This does not mean that they're staying with the Padres indefinitely. But they have to come up with a number or they have to go to arbitration. They have to go to the hearing. But you look at a Luis Ariz and look, because of Peter Bendix's generosity from the Marlins, he paid for Luis Ariz's salary last year. The Padres did not have to pay, but under $1 million. It was like, something like $1,950,000. It was a very low price for Luis Ariz. And that was always the rub on Luis Ariz. Well, his second year, you're going to have to pay for his talent. And Peter Bendix did that for us last year. He did that for the Padres. So it is quite a significant jump. And look, AJ Preller hates to go to arbitration. He doesn't think it's worth it. But what makes it a little tricky is AJ Preller has a budget. He's got a budget in that baseball operations department. He's got to stick to the budget, and he's got to make those arbitration numbers work inside of that budget. Well, whatever that budget that was given to him, we know is probably not on a very high side, just based on what we've been following along with all offseason. So again, he's got kind of, some constraints here to make sure that these numbers work for him in arbitration. But look, he never goes to arbitration. He doesn't like going to arbitration, doesn't think it's worth it to go to arbitration. I don't think he goes again this year, Braden. I think he gets these other ones done.
I think so too. I don't think any of the other circumstances are going to affect too much how AJ Preller does his job and how he conducts himself and gets these things done. This is obviously an AJ Preller project, and this is something that he is going to execute more times than not. And I think they're going to keep their perfect no arb, because even though today's
perfect record,
even though today's quote unquote the deadline, they still can negotiate up into the arbitration date.
Great point.
Which would eliminate the arbitration in itself. So even if they don't get it done by today's deadline or whatever the deadline is, I know it's relatively today at some point, and they have to schedule an arbitration hearing, they can still get out of it by negotiating a deal before those hearings happen, and they usually happen throughout the month of January and February.
Yeah, it's a great point. So if they don't come to that agreement today, they schedule the arbitration hearing. And Braden's right. February, I think, is when a lot of them happen. So it coincides with like you're going to spring training and you're going to arbitration. But any time between now and that hearing, like Braden said, if you come to an agreement on terms, that number gets fully guaranteed and you avoid arbitration. Now, if you go to arbitration, and we'll get into this here a little bit because it is an interesting process, right? In 2023, just 6 of the 19 players who fought for a higher salary in arbitration won their case. That's a 316 winning percentage. At the time, it was the lowest for players in a normal season since 2012. And you have to endure a lot to get that winning number, okay? You end up going to this hearing, and the job of the team is to tell you everything that they don't like about you. you were late to something. You had a bad attitude here. They didn't like how you took criticism there. You failed on the mound in XYZ. Your stats were not great over here. This could be for a guy, and it was for a guy like Corbin Burns, okay, who was your 2021 National League Cy Young winner. He ends up going to arbitration with the Brewers. And it was such an ugly, terrible process. He comes out of it and he's quoted during spring training saying, "There's no denying that the relationship is definitely hurt from what transpired between us and the team over the last couple weeks." Because he led the league with 243 strikeouts for the Brewers. He's at the top of his game. And you go into this hearing and all you hear about really are all your flaws, all your weaknesses. You come to find out that you're being quabbled over another $500,000 or another $1 million that the team doesn't want to give you. And the arbitrator doesn't find a middle ground number. The team submits a number, the player submits a number, and the arbitrator has to choose one of those numbers, okay? Then the other thing that is crazy about this process is that number is not fully guaranteed. So like Luis Arraez, if the Padres release him today and like he wasn't picked up by any other team in baseball, he would still get that $14 million. But for someone who goes to arbitration and say they pick the number and the number is, $4 million and the guy is released before opening day, the team just doesn't pay him. He just doesn't get paid. So it's not a guaranteed number. So there's a lot of reasons built into why you want to avoid arbitration. It's just a bad process. It's an ugly process. And it's why AJ Preller doesn't like to go there. I mean, would you, Brayden, like to be pulled into a room like that?
No, probably not. That's not really not a good spot. Well, and the other thing, too, on top of it is, a lot of these agents don't even let their players be part of the negotiation because they just don't even want to waste their time. Because you get the Corbin Burns effect, right? So even if
Josh
you do have
Hader
to go,
also soured by arbitration.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do the arbitration, don't bring the player in. Just handle it yourself, and then let the player get the notification of how much money they ended up getting. So it's always good to avoid that. Try to not ruffle anybody's feathers. Just get the contract done and not have to worry about the he's really good, he's really bad kind of conversation.
Exactly. Bless you. Charisma in the chat, Jason Adam and the Padres settling at $4.8 million per Robert Murray. So there's another one that they are
slightly less than what Fangraphs had.
What did Fangraphs have him at?
5.3.
Oh, Padres are saving money.
There you go. He saved some money.
Okay.
Look at that.
This money is going to go toward our left field. The Padres left fielder. Their
more money into
their pitcher.
Profar's pocket right there.
There you go. So it's good to kind of follow along with that and see like how those numbers are panning out. But so that only leaves them with 3. Right left, or is it 2 left? Is it just Cease and King?
It's just Cease and King.
Okay, so just Cease and King. I think those will be the harder ones, and you're right. Michael King doesn't necessarily have the leverage of being a starter for so long, but a reliever turned starter, a little bit of a different comp in terms of maybe what sides, how they see the numbers. But Dylan Cease, I would imagine, what is he projected at?
Dylan Cease is projected at 13.7.
Yeah, I would think that's. I think that's probably where you're going, right? Somewhere 13.5 or 14, right? Like
I could see like 13 to 15.
Yeah,
is probably his range.
Okay. So
I'm not an arbitration guy.
I'm not an arbitrator either, but they're definitely going through these quickly, so those could get done, within the next few hours. And I see also another chat showed in the chat says 10 a.m. Pacific time. Oh, was that the arbitration deadline? Did we just pass it?
It's possible.
We'll check on that.
That deadline doesn't, again, it's like now you have to go to arbitration, but they can still negotiate before and avoid arbitration.
Absolutely.
And you'll see a bunch of those deals happen.
And trickling
without
in.
the next couple of weeks before. You'll see Heyman and Murray and all those guys go like, so-and-so and whatever, reach an agreement, they'll avoid arbitration after the deadline. So it's more of a soft line.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to get into a lot more of that after the break. We're also actually going to get into the SDSU basketball game and their win. And
started off a little shaky, but then the Aztecs went on a 34-4 run.
We'll tell you why Brian Dutcher is a genius yet again, the strings that he pulled. And, of course, Jake Peavy at 10:35. Stay with us. Annie and Elsten, 97.3 The Fan. Baseball coverage on 97.3 The Fan is presented by T-Mobile. Head to T-Mobile.com and get a great deal on an iPhone 16 Pro. It's a good song, Braden.
It is.
It is. Okay, so last night I turned on the San Diego State Aztecs game, and I tuned in like 5 minutes after it started, and I was like, oh no.
Yes.
Air Force was leading. The commentators kept saying Air Force is dominating, early in the game, of course, but their defense, offense, they're looking great. Oh no, San Diego State, what's going on? So about, I don't know what, like maybe 10, 11 minutes in, score is 20-8. Let me just double check that, but I believe that's what it was. 20-8 at Air Force. And it's looking really shaky, right? Brian Dutcher calls a timeout. He burned one right there. Genius move by him. He knew his team needed it. They huddle up. Whatever he said to them in that next minute or so did the trick, because they go on to a 40-4 run after whatever that happened in that huddle. So 40-4, end up winning the game. Good for the Aztecs to go ahead and pull that one off. And honestly, played some really good basketball after that. I mean, yes, the inferior opponent a little bit with what Air Force ended up looking like. But, do you disagree with that?
No.
Okay.
The thing is you got to handle the zone. It's a little bit of a different look for the Aztecs than they're used to. A lot of zone teams do very well against San Diego State. They have done well against San Diego State because you play a good zone, you got to shoot from the perimeter sometimes, and the Aztecs haven't really had that in years past. So always a little bit iffy in those particular cases. But yeah, Air Force started off very strong, and then San Diego State just went on the huge run, as you mentioned, right around the time that we left Bullies last night. I think that's what needed to happen. Because for a while, our buddy Sam in the chat, who was with dinner with me last night, and a couple of my other friends, he's the resident Aztec of the friend group, and he was locked in, and it was not looking good. And then we left, and then all of a sudden they went on a 30-4 run when we were gone. So maybe that was the case last night.
Sam says that Brian Dutcher told them, quote, "Stop sucking." Dutch in the huddle.
Probably, that'll probably work. But the Aztecs take care of business against Air Force. Those are the games you have to have.
Yes.
You can't drop any more home games in Mountain West Conference play. It's hard to win on the road in general. So to be able to get the win against Boise State last week is great. Now you got to focus on New Mexico in a couple of days, and that's always a tough place to play at the Pit. That game will be on CBS. Mixed in with the NFL content on Saturday, so should be a good contest for the Aztecs coming up on Saturday. But an overall good win. I mean, they were able to turn it on and to be able to play a lot better. Again, the shooting percentage is not very high per se. 11 turnovers. Still, they won the turnover battle. They dominated the rebounding battle. Those are two big stat lines in basketball that you have to win. And San Diego State won both of those, and they ended up winning the contest last night.
Yeah, exactly. Jared Coleman-Jones said after the game, quote, "Coach Dutch, he pretty much gives you a look. You already know coming to that huddle. Lock in. We're not playing to our standards." And Air Force coach Joe Scott said after the game, "Let's just be honest. They're better than us. That's all it really comes down to. They're better than us." But you definitely needed to see San Diego State pull that one off. And again, beginning was a little shaky, but then they dominated after that. They had a really good run and played some really good basketball, and those stats are very, very nice. And how do you keep this team together in an era of NIL and an era of transfer portals when you've got what looks to be a pretty good team that the Aztecs are putting together right here, a group that maybe you would want to see going forward? And I know the season's not over yet, but as I watch them, Braden, I think to myself, man, can you keep them together? Like, can this team learn to build? Because remember, this was a team that a bunch of new players coming into this season, and they've been figuring out a way to make it work and seem like a pretty cohesive unit.
Well, that's the challenge for everybody that's not a blue blood.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it is right now. And you look at the way all the other colleges in town play and throughout college basketball, really in general. I mean, you look at the USD last night lost to Gonzaga 93-80. Had the rough first half, but they split them in the second half, 46 all. In the second half, they lost by 13. They were 30-point underdogs. against Gonzaga and Spokane. And you look at the Toreros, last year's team, they had a group that was brought together at the transfer portal, a lot of freshmen, gelled together, started getting better, and then 4 of their starters ended up leaving in the portal, and they had to start. You got to start over again. And then you start to build, and trying to get better, and you're trying to build a program, and then everybody leaves to go in the portal. It's hard to do, and everybody is facing that challenge right now of going through the first couple of games and getting through the non-conference where you're still introducing yourself in the timeout circles because there are brand new faces everywhere. So
who are you again?
Exactly. It's a very difficult thing. I think it's going to be very hard for any of the local colleges to consistently keep everybody on their team every year. It's just not going to be possible. So you got to be able to try to keep as many of those core guys, and a lot of that comes with building culture. I know we talked about what Mick Cronin was saying yesterday, the UCLA head coach, and obviously that's a lot of problems and a lot of things that he was saying were true. But you look at your culture, that's a good way to keep. That's how players stay when money is now involved. And you look at some of the at least at the college football level, there's a lot of schools that didn't necessarily go very far in terms of making the playoff or having exceptional years. It's some pretty good years where they didn't lose a lot of players in the portal. That just goes to show about the culture that they have and what they want to build there. My alma mater happened to be one of them this year with TCU. They only had 7 guys leave in the portal. And that's what you have to do is kind of build that culture. I think San Diego State's in the position where they can build that culture. I
agree.
And be able to keep as many guys as possible, but you're always going to lose some guys that aren't getting the playing time. You're always going to lose that top player. If a Kentucky or something like that can dish out a lot of money, it's going to be hard for those players to refuse that. But you look at the football team for the Aztecs; they were able to keep a decent amount of players that I think a lot of us thought were going to leave. Like Trey White ended up staying,
coming back.
And that speaks about the coaching and the culture that those particular programs have. And I think when you look at a team that plays the way you would like them to play. And we mentioned what Mick Cronin said yesterday about UCLA. The exact opposite of UCLA right now in terms of cohesiveness and getting guys to play hard hard together and pulling the rope in the right direction and loving each other. That'd be the UCSD Tritons in the way that they play. I mean, Eric Olin's crew is doing a phenomenal job.
They play tonight
this season. And they play tonight. And they are the exact opposite of UCLA. UCLA's got a bunch of talented, players that got money in NIL and everything like that. And one of the best teams money can buy, Eric Olin's squad. Probably not making as much as a lot of the Blue Bloods, but they're sitting at 13-2, 3-0 in Big West play. And the conversation that we had with them when they came to play at USD was like the guys love playing with each other and they love playing for each other. And you could see that as they go about and as they play throughout the year. So tonight, it's a big test for Eric Olin and company because they're going to take on the Cal Poly Mustangs. And you look at the 0-4 and you look at the 0-42 in Big West play. There's 4 guys in that starting lineup that have nothing to do with the 0-42, and they really only have anything to do with the 0-4. And they took Irvine to overtime, and they hung with Stanford for a long time. And these 4 players out of Colorado Mesa and their head coach have done an extremely. They've been really good. So you can't overlook this 0-42 team when you're looking at Irvine on Saturday night coming to. Lion Tree Arena. So it should be a good test for the Tritons tonight. I know you look at the 0-42, you're like, this should be a walk in the park. I don't think it's going to be tonight for the Tritons, but I do think they're better. They're good enough to win.
I agree. I think that they're going to end up winning this game, but exactly, you don't want to overlook it. You don't want to look past it to a bigger game this weekend, which they have. And, streaks are made to be broken. I mean, 0-42, eventually someone's due, right? Someone's going to get that win there, and they're going to be, 1-42. So
it's a funny stat to say,
it
right?
is.
But at the same time, it really doesn't mean anything because you look and there's not. I mean, these players were not on those teams. It's not the same guys. It's not like it's not like an NFL, a professional team where it's got the same crew. Most of the players that have made an impact for Cal Poly this year came from Colorado Mesa with their coach, and it's a different squad. So we'll see what they got.
I agree about the Aztecs too. Like that's obviously what Coach, what Brian Detcher and Steve Fisher have built over there on the Mesa is this team that has a very a very impactful culture, a culture an identity that they understand, that they know, a culture that they all want to believe in. And that's how Brian Dutcher recruits and tries to get players to come over to San Diego State to fit that culture. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, hopefully that collective is building some money, because you will probably have to compete a little bit to try to entice some players, as much as they don't want to leave, just understanding what might be out there for them, like you said, in playing time or in money or in opportunities, who knows. So, still ways to go for that for basketball, but hopefully they're able to get a little of that core to stay here and continue playing together. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk to the one and only Jake Peavy, who is just phenomenal to talk to, and we're so happy to get him on the show. He's going to be inducted into the Breitbart Hall of Fame on Monday night, along with Adrian Gonzalez and Sharday Houston. And we'll catch up with him on that and all things baseball. Keep it right here, 97.3 The Fan, Annie and Elsten Show. 10:36 on a Thursday, right here on Annie and Elsten, 97.3 The Fan. I'm Annie Heilbrunn. Hello. Joined by Braden Supren, and Craig Elsten is out today. We're rolling right along. We'll be taking you till 2 p.m., then turning the reins over to Gwyn and Chris, and then a little Scraby show tonight at 6 p.m. So thanks, everyone, for being with us today as we welcome in a very special guest, someone I am so excited to see on Monday, the one and only Jake Peavy, who is being inducted into the Breitbart Hall of Fame on Monday, which is really the San Diego Hall of Fame. All of the plaques are inside the Western Metal Supply Building at Petco Park. And of course, he is more than deserving. Just got inducted into the Padres Hall of Fame recently. Jake, how's it going? How are you?
Annie, how are you? Happy New Year. It's going wonderful here. I'm bundled up, even in the South, back in Alabama, my hometown, Mobile, but it is cold even here for us this time of year. So and my best to all that's going on out there on the news with the fires. Certainly devastating with friends up and down the coast. So my best wishes to California friends, and we're holding on down here freezing.
Yeah, I know. That is so appreciated. What's been going on here in Los Angeles has been just pretty tragic to watch. What is the temperatures like? Like, here in San Diego, if it dips below 70, I've got on a scarf and some Uggs, and I'm like, oh, it's cold, right? What is freezing in Mobile, Alabama?
Well, we pretend kind of the same way that we have winter, too. I grew up in Mobile, Alabama, the deep south, and then immediately came out west, which I love. I grew up in San Diego there at 20 years old. But being here, the summers are brutal. What people don't really understand when I say Alabama is that I'm from Mobile, which is on the coast. So we're right on the Gulf of Mexico, and Alabama has some beautiful beaches. We have a beautiful big bay. So we have a very similar life to what it was in San Diego, being right on not an ocean, but a big body of water in the Gulf of Mexico. So the rest of Alabama up north and stuff is not a lot like this, but I-10, travels right through Mobile and just a corridor from east to west throughout the country. So it's a brackish, cool thing. And I'll tell you, freezing has been freezing. It has truly got down to 32 degrees here, which happens maybe once a winter, maybe, and certainly not this early. But
that's cold.
I think the whole eastern half of the United States is getting crushed right now with cold. But look, it's the winter time, and I don't mind it.
Well, stay bundled up. We appreciate you being on with us. Hopefully you're indoors, which maybe helps. It's a little excuse to stay inside, right? Jake, as just before we get into your career and everything, as today is a day where players are having to decide arbitration numbers and whether or not they're going to arbitration. Just curious, because we've heard obviously so much about this process throughout the years and how difficult it can be for players. Did you ever have to go to arbitration? Was it ever something you had to experience?
I didn't, and thank God.
Yes.
Because it's not a fun process. Arbitration really, you're this young kid that has this dream of playing in the major leagues, and money, you certainly know that you can get paid and make nice money there, but you just dream of getting there, and you do, and you start making league minimum, which is more than most kids ever dream of making at over $800,000 now. But in the big league lifestyle and renting a place in the city you're playing and stuff, you have. And then traveling and being in the hotels and just where you are, you're going to spend some money. So you make this money for the first 3 years. It's just, the team will give you a little raise, but you're making around league minimum. And then now you've put these 3 full years in to where you go to arbitration or whatever it may be that gets the player to arbitration. And now if you can't settle, you go sit in a room, and you really, with the brass of the team, with your bosses that you have these relationships with that you think are good because they've never been quite like this. You're about to sit in there and go, I'm worth X dollars, and the opposition, which you think's your family up until this point in time, and right, and they start they just pick you apart about how terrible of a baseball player you are to get the other judgment. So it really creates a divide between the player. We all, when you play for a team, Annie, you bleed those colors, and you live and die with the fans and the fan base in the city. This takes some of that away for the first time. It did me watching others go through it. And it's heartbreaking, but you really see that, it's a business at the end of the day, and guys are making business decisions all throughout baseball, especially at this level.
Yeah, you really see another side of it, that's for sure. Talking to Jake Peavy here on 97.3 The Fan. Jake, one of my favorite parts of your story as I was brushing up on things before Monday was the start of your career and your debut, right? So you were drafted by the Padres, 15th round, 472nd overall. You made your debut against the Yankees at Qualcomm Stadium. It was a sold-out crowd of 60,000. You were only 21 years old. You faced Derek Jeter. You struck him out on 3 pitches. What was it like for you to finally make it to that moment? Like, do you still feel that day? Can you still feel what it felt like on the mound and what that whole day was like for you?
You know, just listening to you say it, I do. I can really, hearing it and trying to channel the feeling of that day. And look, my original thought was, for the first time ever, my dear friend Kevin Towers, and why I didn't have to go to arbitration is because we had a beautiful former player, former scout, baseball savant. Kevin Towers is our general manager. Unbelievable relationships with our coaching staff, with Bruce Bochy. It's all documented, but throughout the players, and he made sure, and via John Moores, our owner at that time, that we kept the family vibe. And if you remember, during those times, San Diego didn't arbitrate with guys, and the only way it got sticky was just with superstars were about to get fair market value, and we didn't quite have that to give.
Yeah.
Kind of deal. But no, I can't. But I was thinking when you said that, what was Kevin Towers thinking? Throwing a kid in his debut. Can I get the Royal? My next start was against the Kansas City Royals. Couldn't they have?
Wait until that.
In my opinion, yeah, you'd back me off long enough with one more start. But what a life lesson, and Kevin Towers still teaching me life lessons of, man, when you have something in somebody you think is worth a shot, give them a big shot and see how they turn out. And man, what a favor he did for me, because before I struck out Jeter, Alfonso Soriano hit the first ball I threw in the big leagues off the wall. There's the San Diego Zoo sign out there in left center. So there was a guy standing on second base before I faced Jeter. Oh, God, my fastball don't play. What do you throw Jeter? I threw him slider. He swings and misses. I threw him a few more. He continued to swing and miss. At that point in time, you go, oh, my gosh, my slider plays at a major level. At this level, let's throw a lot more of these. The day ended, unfortunately, 1-0 to the Yankees. Giambi right after Jeter, singles home. Soriano 1-0, but I held it through 6 innings. I started the 7th, and gosh, Boach come out to get me to bring in Alan Embry, and this is another side story as I go off. Alan Embry struck out every Yankee he faced. The game ended 1-0. We didn't score. Ted Lilly threw a shutout. Alan Embry, right after the game, that same Kevin Towers traded him immediately to the Boston Red Sox.
Oh, yes.
Your
Wow.
value cannot be any higher. You just struck out 9 consecutive Yankees. What's the Red Sox want for you? As we were in rebuilding mode, starting a 20-year-old. Great Kevin Towers wheeling and dealing.
I love it. I love these stories. I can never get enough of them. And I mean, on that note, okay, Kevin Towers, Bruce Bochy was your manager, of course. You were in a clubhouse with Tim Flannery, Ryan Klesko, Trevor Hoffman, Phil Nevin, among others, right? I mean, how much did that clubhouse, you're 21 years old and growing into who you're going to become as a player and as a man, how much did that clubhouse help you just professionally and personally?
I don't know that I could put it into any kind of measurable terms. When we talk about Kevin Towers and his influence on me still to this day, and we learn from us talking about him, those guys you mentioned specifically, let's start with Trevor Hoffman, just the constant pro, but also loved his family, made sure they were included and around all the time, and boys in the clubhouse, and just teaching us how to work and how to have a routine and become a major leaguer, but also how to have fun and be with our teammates, be in his suite, Phil Nevin's suite. Ryan Klesko, my first road trip, immediately takes me out and buys me $1,000+ worth of suits. I didn't have this money. Just an absolute gesture that changed my life of, man, the next time that was to happen, and I was that guy. I made sure to try to always pass that stuff on the way they took care of me. Phil Nevin, from the day I got there, those three in particular, Phil and Klesko and Hoffy, made me feel welcome, and they were the elder statesmen of the team and the guys who had been around and were going to be around, and that's in John Moore's and just the whole vibe I got to come be a part of there at a young age throughout my 20s really shaped me. And what a thing we had. And now today to look to where that's even grown, the fan base, the team we have, the people in charge. I know there's some uncertainty now, but it's all going to work out just fine.
Everybody appreciates your optimism in San Diego, so noted right there. Talking to Jake Peavy here on 97.3 The Fan. And Jake, when I was talking to Adrian Gonzalez yesterday, we got into a little bit how different those times were, speaking of ownership, and in the sense of big superstar players getting contracts wasn't always the case, right? And when Adrian ended up being traded, the payroll for the Padres was $40 million for the entire roster. And you yourself signed a big contract. You probably felt pretty secure in San Diego. I know how much you loved San Diego, you and your family. And then you end up getting traded as well, I think 2 years into that contract. How difficult was that to hear about that and just end up leaving San Diego?
Well, it was gut-wrenching. There's no other way to put it. I'd moved by this point in time, my family, my children were in school. I was in my third or fourth home, around the area, starting right there in Mission Valley to Scripps Ranch to 4S Ranch to in the Santa Luz development, kind of there to end. But Phillip Rivers, the quarterback of the Chargers, was out there, former Alabama, another Alabama boy. So we were linked up, all living there together, right down the street from Trevor, Mark Loretta, and Phil, and all the people. I tell you, and again, my kids were in school, and in that contract extension, I had the opportunity to negotiate with other teams and go elsewhere because of them trading me if I wasn't going to sign an extension, and I wanted to be in San Diego. It was home. It still is a huge part of me, and so that was how it all ended. When John Morris had to sell the team and ownership started to change and the payroll was going down to those numbers, I was the first big problem with that because of the extension I signed. The reason I signed the extension and took less money was for the full no trade cost to not leave San Diego for 11 years, as my contract would have taken me through. So I know that Adrian probably felt the same. We were in our dream scenario there. And then just wanted, we thought we had a chance to win, and we certainly did. 05, 06, back-to-back divisions. 07, my best year. We had our best team. Mike Cameron and Milton Bradley got hurt. So, but those were great times, and we were building something special down at Petco, winning for the first time. Downtown was starting to come alive. And then to see where it's at today is just, happy to still be around and a part to watch it happen.
Yeah, it's so cool to kind of see that contrast for players like yourself who were part of that building phase, and then to see the sold out crowds now. And, you look back at your time in San Diego. I mean, of course, you get traded and you go on to win 2 World Series rings, one with the Red Sox and one with the Giants. But in San Diego, one of the best pitchers San Diego's ever seen. He had the best ERA, led the National League in strikeouts, became the only Padre to win the pitching Triple Crown, won the Cy Young. I mean, I could go on and on. Is there anything that you look back on during your time in San Diego that just is really most special to you or more special to you than anything else?
No, it's the relationships.
Yeah.
It truly is. I speak and I tried to say as many people's names in this interview, and there's 50 more. When you're in a place, as long as I was there from 2002, and I got traded in 2009, and I closed Qualcomm. I got to, pitch in front of 60,000 in Qualcomm and get that experience to closing it, to watching the construction and being a part of Petco opening days and coming to life and for the first time. And then, a year after we do that, we win the division in 05. We win the division in 06. 07, again, we had to play in the play-in game, but that was our most dangerous team. In 06, we lost to the eventual champion Cardinals. We knew we were on the precipice of something special. We had Boch, a championship caliber leader, as we all now know, Kevin Towers. There were so many good places, and then, but we were still a small market team, under John Moore's. But the guys who were born and raised in that environment were happy to give up less for the quality of life, for their families, and what we all got to gain off the field, we thought, in San Diego. So, it was a beautiful time, and that's what I look back on. The '07, my best year there, when we win a unanimous Cy Young and we do win the Triple Crown. All I can remember is the flight home from Colorado, and with Hoffy and my best bud, feeling, all of us just heartbroken.
Yeah.
After a weekend's worth of it, Tony Gwynn broke our heart before that in Milwaukee, and we were ready to celebrate. So, look, I had 2 16 strikeout games where I don't know if that's still the record, but we lost both of them. With John Smoltz threw a shutout against me one night, I did it.
Isn't that crazy?
And then Coffee and Liney give up a lead in Arizona one night. And so some of my biggest accolades there personally, they don't mean anything, and that's a life lesson in itself. The personal stuff doesn't mean anything to relationships. And only towns remember the championships. You don't celebrate anything else, Annie.
Yeah.
They don't celebrate the Cy Young. We don't have a 10-year reunion for that. You got to win a championship, and that's the word that's been buzzing around San Diego, and they know that they've got to pull it off, and it takes a city, a community effort to do that, and we're knocking on the door, girl.
It's so, so true. I love it. I love it. You're the ambassador right now for all of San Diego, I feel. Jake, before I let you go, are you still playing the guitar? Do you have any upcoming concerts, or you're still making music?
Oh, look, I love to make music. I don't ever really do it publicly. It's something that my children do. I do almost daily with them. My oldest is now, they're growing into young men and far surpassed me on the musical talent level. But we have a studio here in Mobile, Alabama, that we're still involved in the music scene. And I am going to play at Innings Festival. If your listeners don't know, if you want to come to spring training, it's, I guess, right around March 1st is the second weekend, but back-to-back weekends in Phoenix is 2 wonderful festivals put on by my good buddy Tim Sweetwood and E3 Presents, and you get to go to spring training games all during the day and around this, and incredible music at nice little Lumineers. It's Fall Out Boy. It's incredible acts.
That's fun.
I go out and we do. Ryan Dempster hosts a left field stage. It's kind of baseball oriented, and we put a little all-star jam together and have fun. So come out to Phoenix.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna drag you out there. I'll tell you all about it Monday night.
I'll be out there for sure. For sure. You gotta let me know the details. Extra Innings Festival. I see a few comments in the chat. Some people are already planning to go. So absolutely, Jake, it's a plan. Listen, thank you so much for taking the time. Stay warm out there. And luckily, when you come to San Diego, Jake, I don't know if you know, it's probably gonna be about 72 degrees, maybe 74. So you'll be all set. You'll feel that sunshine.
I can't wait. I can tell you this: I land early Monday morning, and it can't come fast enough.
All right.
I appreciate it. I look forward to seeing everybody Monday night. It's going to be a blast.
Going to be awesome. Thanks so much, Jake. Have a good one. See you Monday.
Bye-bye.
Jake Peavy, everyone, right here on 97.3 The Fan. We'll be back on the other side to break that down and talk a little bit more Padres. Keep it right here. Annie and Elsten, 97.3 The Fan. 11 a.m. on a Thursday right here on 97.3 The Fan. Annie and Elsten Show. I'm Annie Heilbrunn, joined by Braden Suprenant. Craig Elsten is out today as we are rolling you through hour number 1 just finished. And we are in hour number 2.
Little Mac
vibe.
Miller on a
Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah, a little Mac, exactly. Vibing out a little bit. Because, tomorrow's Friday. And so pre-Friday Eve, is that what you, Friday Eve, I guess.
Friday Eve.
Pre-Friday Eve
Does that mean
morning?
Wednesday is Friday Eve? Happy
It's
Friday
always
Eve
a good
Eve
day.
on Wednesday. Instead of hump day, it's Friday Eve.
It's Friday Eve.
Yeah,
And
I
we
gotta
celebrate that, so.
I just got to make it through. It was my last adult thing this week. I got to make it to the DMV today.
Oh, man. You saved the DMV for your last thing.
Well, I mean, it's
Well,
I don't
wait,
really.
do you have a car back?
I have my car back.
Okay.
I got that back yesterday. It didn't cost me as much as I thought it was going to
That's a
initially
plus.
cost because the quote they gave me, they forgot to take some things out for whatever. So I have to go back to finish with some fluids and stuff like that have to go into the thing. And everybody's like, what happened to your car? I'm like, it's 50,000 miles now. Routine maintenance of needing new brakes and rotors and oil change. And
All the
since my
stuff.
car is a high performance vehicle,
Oh, wow. Look at
everything
you
costs
flexing.
more. Yeah, well, I didn't, the Camaro's cool, but to turn the high performance vehicle like it's a race car is ridiculous.
I see your point there. Okay.
So they have the high performance
Like
tires and the
oil
high
and-
performance oil.
Yeah.
And it's just basically just something to mark up whatever. And you have to go to the dealership for a lot of that stuff. So I'll be back there relatively soon. I do have to fix my tires, but I go to a different place for that.
Yeah. Now, did you make an appointment for the DMV? Or are you just
I did.
rolling in? Or what's
That's
your
why
plan?
I'm going
Okay.
to the one over here because, it's almost impossible to get one up in North County in Poway. I mean, that's booked for
East County too. El Cajon. It's a tough
it's
one.
impossible. That's
Right.
why when I was in high school, I took my permit test at the Normal Heights one. I took my driver's test at the Poway one. I've done something at the Claremont one, I'm sure. But it's I have everything. Apparently everything that I have expires this year. I had to do my passport this year. I have to do I never got my real ID, so I'm getting that today finally. So I just got to grind through that process cuz that's due this year. Because now, if you don't have a real ID, they they start handing you while you fly, you need to get this before, even though you can still use a passport. But I'll make it through the DMV today, and then tomorrow, hopefully, it'll be a lot happier. I'm going over to my buddy's house for the Penn State game.
Yeah.
Because he is the Penn State fan, so he's trying to simulate everything that happened last time when they won.
Oh, well, he's doing all his superstitions.
Yeah, and he's like, well, everybody's got to sit in the same spot on the couch. And he's like, well, we got
wow.
Gaglione brothers. Do we have to do that again? I was like, hey, I don't know. Maybe, possibly. One of our friends, Sam, Sushi Sam, is going to be out. He's going to a wedding this weekend, so he's flying out of town. And my buddy was like, I can't believe you're doing this to me. If they lose, it's your fault now. That's how this works.
I mean, that's a big cross to bear. That's a big responsibility now if you've got to do everything just for him the way that he wants it so that he can feel like he's doing his part, I guess.
Sometimes this is where it gets ridiculous. This is where it gets ridiculous. Let me know if this is maybe I'm out of touch on this.
Okay.
But for football fans, I got to ask how into this you guys are. It's an interesting question because I think my friends are nuts when it comes to their locking in.
Their superstitions?
Locking
Okay.
in. Not even superstitions. Just locked into the game. One of my friends is a Cowboys fan. He will watch on NFL.com the all 22 cam of the opponent during the week.
So he's watching game film.
Game tape to get locked in for Sunday.
But is he going to go and call up the coach on the phone and
that's
tell
right.
the
And I'm
coach
sitting
what he
there.
learned?
It's always during the football season, right? Some of us are actually doing that to prepare for a game, even though it's the high school level. Some of us are actually
Coach
doing
Suprenant.
that.
Okay,
right.
Coach Suprenant.
And I'll be like, "Sorry, I'm doing this. What are you up to?" Oh, sorry. Some of us, but they go. Some of us have to lock in for Sunday, getting prepared. I'm like, getting prepared for what? I said, "What? Well, I got to know what they're doing." What do you mean you got to know what the other team's doing?
Right.
Are you going to call Mike McCarthy and be like, "Hey, man, I found this. I'm sure
I see
you
a
missed it.
tendency over here
I'm
that
sure
you might want to
missed
pay
it."
attention to.
What?
A vulnerability
Why?
here.
They'll spend hours doing that. I'm like, why? Look, if you want to watch the press conferences or whatever, kind of get the storylines, fine.
Right,
But
right,
the
right.
game tape
My
about
man,
being locked in.
I need you to take it down a notch.
Yeah. Well, that's like.
Then again, I applaud his. He must have some extra time on his hands where he feels like he can.
I guess.
I applaud that part.
Does
of it,
anybody else do that?
I do not.
I don't either. I mean, I do it for the teams I coach.
Yes.
But I'm not doing that for my favorite. I'm not. When TCU plays football, I'm not breaking down K-State for them. I don't need to do that. They've been doing. Their GAs have been doing that for weeks.
They have
I
actual
don't need
jobs.
to do that. Yeah, exactly. That's their actual job. I'm not calling up Sonny Dykes. Hey, they do run the 4.25 over there, and you got to be careful about that smoke blitz. I mean, it's just not. Everybody knows what they're doing anyway. So I'm like, what is the point of that? That is one thing they do.
Wait, Nate in the chat said, "Is that the same friend that made the Padres lose?"
He did, but hey, you know what? He flipped the script. Nate, he flipped the script. Second half, Matt was on fire.
Okay.
And the playoff games he attended, the Pods won. So he can't. Hey, you know what?
Right. You win some, you lose some.
He flipped the script on that. But the other thing they do, this drives me insane because as a coach, obviously, technique, stances, all that stuff. On third down, these guys are nuts. On third down, so Penn State, like tonight, when Penn State's got a third down on defense, they might get into a 4-point stance or a 3-point stance to help the defense out a little bit. I'm like, what are you doing here? Mike, what are you doing? You're in a 3-point stance pretending that you're Abdul Carter right now. You have no impact on the game. And then the little things that they would do. And sometimes they'll tell me too, like, hey, you got to get locked in this week. You got to get locked in. We got to make sure we have a good day on special teams. I'm like, Mike, just because I'm a special teams coach doesn't mean I have any impact on what is going on in this game. Because I guess the last game of the season for Penn State, they had 3 kicks blocked. He's like, we need a better performance out of special teams. You need to be locked in this week.
Let the Gunners know.
Yeah, exactly.
Get on it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm sure to. Let me call up James Franklin and be like, hey, this is how you fix this. I can't believe. I maybe because I work in sports now, maybe I lose a little bit of the super passion
right,
there. I think that is clinically insane.
You see the behind the scenes. It's not just a fun, passionate hobby, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just like, okay, I'm not getting in a 4-point stance right now. And watching them get into a 3-point or a 4-point stance is just like, that is just...
So
what are we doing here?
He makes you get into the stance?
I don't know. I don't.
Okay.
Do it. I
would draw the line there as well.
I'm not getting on the
there's
stance.
certain things where I'm like, wait a second, I'm my own person. I'm going to go ahead and
I'll
say
do
no
some
on
of
this.
the traditions that they do, right? Like when TCU's third down, they all go like this. Everybody does that, right? And so I'll do that on third down. But aside from that, I'm not really doing anything else. They do. They like to do the blue shots. They take, they'll make a different blue shot for Penn State.
Or?
No, I don't know. So
Yeah.
I guess the Penn State headquarters for San Diego's Mavericks in PB, and when they score, they give everybody blue shots.
Okay.
And so they have started to do that at my buddy's house. Like, well, blue shots every time they score. So they have to pick a different blue shot every time. I don't know how many blue shots are out there. I mean, there's only so much you could do with blue curacao.
I was just going to say blue curacao is the only thing that really comes to mind for me on this, But
yeah, you got to find different things to
different
do with blue
mixes,
curacao,
right? Like
or
different
blue Jello shot or something like that.
Yeah.
But I will not be getting in a 3-point stance nor a 4-point stance.
No.
They do the same thing for basketball. Now, all 3 of them do the same thing for basketball. Like Sam does it for the Aztecs.
My thing is that these teams aren't undefeated, so at some point they got to lose. So do they? They do realize that when they do that,
then they watch more film. Got to adjust. But for defense, they'll slap the floor and they get into a triple, just a defensive stand. I'm just sitting there
really
just going
taking it to the limit.
You're not having any impact on Brian Dutcher's defense right now. You're not having any impact on Russ Turner's defense
when a butterfly
at Irvine.
Flaps its wings.
Yeah, you know who never does that? Me. You know what? Maybe that's why
the continents.
Maybe that's why the Frogs have struggled. I'm not getting in enough stances here to help the ball club out. But he's like, it's all about helping the ball club. You're not doing anything. You're not doing anything.
I love these. I love these because it's so sports. You're right. When you start working in it, you really get kind of, what's the word? It's like you're just kind of numb, I guess, to some of this stuff, right? Because you're working in it. It's more of a job to you, But people's superstitions or their traditions, or even coaches and what people think could help. And then the delusion of they lost the game, but we're going to do it all again next week, right?
I don't get too superstitious. I used to be more superstitious as a kid. I'm not as superstitious now. There are a couple things as a coach that I'll do.
My dad will yell at the TV. He will get up and yell at the TV, as if they can hear him.
I'll do that.
Okay, yeah. That's probably a more normal one.
Yeah, I'll scream at the TV.
Yeah. Anyways.
It depends on the game, though. It depends on the team. TCU Athletics, I'll scream at the TV. Padres, I don't scream at the TV as much. There's 162 games. So
right.
It's just like,
it's more like, oh, well, you got a game tomorrow.
All right,
Let's see how
tomorrow.
it goes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's more of a streak that happens with the Padres.
Not a lot of,
right.
Well, the other thing, too, is with us working with the Padres so much, it's like, all right, we know what's going on. I don't need to scream at these guys right now. We know the ins and outs. We know what they're thinking, all that sort of thing. But for football, it's a little bit different. It's once a week. You put the build up and everything like that.
It's very passionate.
You start screaming at the TV. And, my mom and my sister, when they watch football with me, my brother and my dad, they have no idea why we yell at the TV.
Yeah. I remember for the no-hitter for Joe Musgrove, Tara Musgrove, Joe's sister, told me that they all sit in a certain place in their house. They all have a seat, for Joe's starts. And so when he was getting into that no-hitter, no one ever moves from their seats, from my understanding anyways. They all sit in their obligatory seats. But it was very important. Everybody stays in their seats. Nobody gets up. All the things going on during that no-hitter. So look, you gotta buy in sometimes. That's for sure, right? And you gotta make sure that you're doing your part, I guess, wherever that is.
I do a couple of things for I wear the it's more of a tribute, not really superstitious, but I'll never not wear the white belt for Mario.
For sure.
Who's my old coach? He used to wear it. We used to make fun of him for the white belt. We used to do it like everybody's I'm the only one that still does it, but I'll never not wear the white belt. And people always go, "You look ridiculous," and I go, "I do look ridiculous, but this means something to me, so I'm going to be wearing this for the remainder of time." Now, I do get to I don't wear hats too much anymore while coaching. So sometimes I'll wear a hat and then I'm like, can I wear? We won last week with the hat, or we won last week without the hat. Am I not going to wear the hat? And then I have so many different coaching shirts from Cathedral for the last couple of years. I'm like, can I wear that one again? Even though it's the same look, it's one's a lighter one, one's a thicker one.
Right?
Should I wear this? Last time I wore the pullover and we lost. Does that mean I can't wear the? So I do a little bit of that thing.
Can you bring it back? Do you have to burn it?
Yeah, exactly. And then I go that's ridiculous. We've game planned too much for this to come down to what my quarter zip looks like.
Well, I love this conversation. It's fun to have.
I saw Jeff West with the gum.
Yeah.
I do have to coach with gum now. That's now a habit of mine.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, Bob Melvin had all those superstitions and the different colored candies for different innings and based on whichever team he's managing.
See, baseball's different.
Baseball's different, though. And that's
more
more
psychotic.
Crazy, right? Baseball's a lot more crazy. And a lot of people won't even talk about their superstitions, but you just see some throughout the year. But you're right. Football is a different beast. Even tailgating superstitions, and what you're eating and where your spot is and all of that happens as well. Okay, I want to run through these arbitration numbers for the Padres, and then when we come back after the break, Braden and I are going to get into a little bit more about the arbitration, as well as... are
we missing something?
Are we missing something with the Padres?
We might be missing something as a fan base and as a radio station.
As San Diego, I think we might be on the outside of something that the rest of nationally is seeing very differently, okay?
Yes.
So we're going to get into that. That should be a fun conversation. But just very quickly, Adrian Marajón and the Padres, they agreed on a $2 million contract for 2025. Luis Arraez and the Padres agreed on a $14 million salary for 2025. Luis Campusano and the Padres settled at $1 million. Dylan Cease and the Padres reached an agreement on $13.75 million for 2025. The only player...
He got $50,000 more than Fangraphs thought he would get.
Okay, $50,000 more. And by the way, that is a steal. I'll get... So the only player that the Padres have not reached arbitration with is Michael King. Now, as Braden was talking about in our first segment of the show, that doesn't mean that they won't reach a number before going to a hearing.
Correct.
The hearing will probably be in February. They've got all this time. If they can figure out how to come to terms on a number, they can still avoid the hearing. But that's the only one that they haven't done. Now, for $13.75 million, and this is the point I wanted to make, I see some comments in the chat. I hate to break your heart. These guys can still get traded. Just because that they are, Yeah,
they're not locked in just because they reached arbitration. They got a contract now.
That's exactly right. So they have a number now that is guaranteed for 2025. If they get traded, it's going to be that number that they're paid, whatever team that they're with. So they still can get traded, but it is good that they're able to come to terms on a number. Hopefully it's a palatable number for the Padres. Remember, A.J. Preller is still working within a budget. And inside of that budget are these arbitration numbers. So he's got to have to make them work so that he can still go out and get other players or make trades. Now, Braden, if I am a team looking at Dylan Cease, $13.75 million, have you all seen the prices for starting pitching right now? They are very much higher than $13.75 million for 1 year. So it makes him look like a very tradable steal if you can get him.
He's absolutely a massive tradable asset.
And hopefully he's not.
Affordable.
Hopefully he's not traded.
Yeah, I just, the way that's playing out for the Padres and with everything going on, I just feel like, you really have to go after for the first couple of months, and then you have a lot of exit plans at the deadline if things don't work out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you can't, the thing is now you're playing the difficult game of you really don't want King and Arise and Cease to leave for nothing.
Right.
That's where you think. So like at the end of the year, it's unless you win the World Series and they depart, and you're like, well, we got a World Series out of them. Who cares? You really need something back in return. So it's gonna be very interesting, and they got a lot of holes to fill, and we haven't really got into the catching situation, and that's going to be a topic probably for the next month and a half until pitchers and catchers report. Whoever is left, that's a catcher for the Padres. But right now, Campusano's your starting catcher, and they sent him down at the end of the year last year.
Yeah.
So that's all you need to know about that particular situation. But we might be in a lot better spot than we think as Padres fans.
This Padres team might be, dare we say it, sneaky something, right?
Might be.
So we're going to get into what that might be is on the other side of the break. Keep it right here. Annie and Elsten, 97.3 The Fan. The Odyssey app lets you jump back to the moments you missed on 97.3 The Fan. While you're listening to 97.3 The Fan, you can see what you missed and you can click to listen on demand. Did you miss a guest, feature, or something crazy happen from earlier? Yeah, we've got you covered. Did you miss Jake Peavy at 10:35? Download the free Odyssey app, search 97.3 The Fan, tap earlier today, and get started. Okay, not my best, but not my worst
Well,
either.
my buddies went back and listened to that last segment. I'm getting crushed right now. They're like, I can't believe. He's like, all these people are going to think we're dead serious. This is BS. They're all upset. You're trying to get us unlocked for the game.
I feel
I'm
like if someone told me, hey, get into a 3-point stance, I'd have questions. I would have questions. I'd be like, what kind of game are we playing here?
Oh,
you know?
I think it's funny. I just thought it was funny. They're like they're freaking out. I can't believe this. This is BS. This is whatever. They're all upset. But they got to read all the other superstitions in here. Some of these are hilarious.
The one from you just put it up from. Was it Matt or who was
Here's one of them I saw.
Tailgating, I think. There we go. Yeah, Matt.
When the C words were still in town, we would cook a dish associated with the opposing team's city for tailgating. That was fun. That's kind of cool.
Like a fish fry for the Dolphins.
Right. Yeah. Like I don't know what you would do for like some of the
I don't know what you do for like the Steelers, I guess, but
like the Broncos. Oh, I guess you could make something like what they're famous for.
Yeah. They probably do that. That's probably what they look
Rocky
up.
Mountain oysters and the Broncos come to town.
Oh yeah. I'm not partaking in the Rocky Mountain oysters.
No thanks.
Right.
Jeff West, last year on my Excel spreadsheet for my tickets, I tracked what their win-loss record was when I touched my brick or not.
Touched my brick or not?
Like the bricks at the Petco?
Oh!
When you have like your own bricks?
I thought that was slang for something.
No, stop.
Doesn't mean to touch your brick.
Yeah, stop it.
That's all right.
Foul. That's a foul.
He draws the foul.
Also tracked how the team did based on whether I drove to the ballpark or took the trolley.
Okay,
personal fan stats.
That's a little, that's a personal stat because your mode of transportation of getting to the ballpark, how did that affect things is what he's saying.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
I think they're great. I think they're fun.
Yeah. They're super fun. They're super fun. I guess if you figured out, hey, every time I take the trolley, they win, that's even better. And you're saving on you're encouraging public transportation.
There you go.
Yeah. So saving on gas.
Right. So that's funny. If you got any other sports superstitions, we'd love to hear about it. You can leave us a voice message.
Leave us a voice message in the Odyssey app, right, Braden? You just got to click in there.
Yeah, on the Odyssey app where it says right next to Listen Live, it says voice message. Click on it, and then you can record, and it will get sent right to us.
Yeah, let us know your superstitions, anything that you do during. It could be football, it could be baseball, it could be whatever, or put them in the chat, or call in during Ask Us Anything, and because it's a fun segment. People definitely have very unique things that they do.
Yes.
Okay. So, all right, good stuff. We were talking about arbitration right before we went to the break, and I thought it was so cool also to go back and listen to that Jake Peavy interview at 10:35. Not only is he very optimistic about San Diego and bringing a championship to San Diego, but he talked a little bit about arbitration and what a brutal process it is. And the Padres have come to terms here with every person that they have needed to arbitrate with today and avoid arbitration. So they settled with all these other players: Adrian Marajón, Luis Arraez, Luis Campusano, Dylan Cease. Who am I missing? There's one I'm missing, right? I thought there were 6. Jason Adam, thank you very much.
Arraez 14, Cease 13.7, Jason Adam 4.8, Marajón 2, Campusano 1. Michael King did not reach an agreement, but they can still do it before his arbitration hearing.
Yes, and so they still got a little time to do that. And what Brandon and I were looking at, because there was an article that came out about power rankings, right? And normally, power rankings are very subjective, depends, eye of the beholder. But Braden, we saw one that it kind of made a lot of sense, right? We were looking at MLB.com, and the MLB grouping has the Padres where?
They go, who tops our inaugural 2025 power rankings? The power rankings they are what they are. But what you really have to understand, and I talked about this on my show on Sunday, you have to ask the question about the way the roster is currently constructed. Because, again, when you talk about the Padres and their payroll, a lot of the times it's like, well, we spent the money.
Yeah.
And here's the roster. And the roster is still pretty good. I mean, what's locked in for a long time is a lot of great players. But I feel like just the way that the Padres came up short in the playoffs, and we always think about the 24 consecutive innings, whatever, of not scoring, and then the Dodgers won the World Series. Then they just bought even more players and unloaded a bunch, and loaded up more on payroll. And the Mets went and got Soto, and you start seeing all these teams making all these moves. And I just feel like we have put ourselves in this position now as Padres fans where we just had so many great offseason moves and always spending. Eventually, it was going to stop, and that stops for everybody.
Yeah,
it's not nobody's got these empty, these deep pockets. Maybe a couple of teams do, but you look at what the roster currently is, and some people on Sunday were like, "Look, it's not complete." I understand that. But at the same time, you got to start looking at what the competition is to get into the postseason, because it is not about just winning the division. It's about getting in the playoffs. We've been in this position before. A couple of years ago, 2022, the Padres were, less than the Dodgers in terms of on paper. And the whole time it was, you don't have to beat them in a 162-game season. You got to beat them in a 5-game series. And in that 5-game series, anything can happen, especially in the playoffs. That's just what baseball is. So even though this team gets really in, like the Dodgers put a ton of money in their team, and it's not like they get extra wins for all of this extra money that they are spending. You still have to make it through the playoffs, and in baseball, it's wild. So your goal is to make the playoffs. Well, if you start looking at the competition, 3 of the spots you're already not going to get, but those are 3 spots already taken by the top 3 teams probably in the National League. Dodgers are going to win the division, most likely than not. If they don't, okay. The Phillies or the Mets are going to win, or the Braves are going to win their division in the East. And then in the Central, currently in the National League Central, it's either going to be probably the Cubs or the Brewers. Brewers did it last year, and they come in the top 10 in the power rankings. We'll get to the power rankings in a second. But you start breaking down the National League, think about the teams you have to compete against. So, let's just say the Brewers in the Central and the Dodgers are in the West, and we'll take the Phillies, whatever, in the East. You got the Braves, the Mets, the Padres, the Diamondbacks, the Giants, maybe the Cubs. You got 6 teams playing for 3 spots. Those are the teams you're competing against. Yeah. And you start looking at some of these rosters. I mean, the Braves haven't done anything this offseason either. And they lost Fried and Morton, right? So you start looking at it, even though they pick up Acuna and a couple guys from injury, you start comparing the rosters. There's holes on a lot of those rosters. And those are the teams that you're competing with for 3 playoff spots. And you start breaking it down. Padres on paper still have a really good team, even though they have question marks at catcher and they don't have a left fielder right now, and the bullpen is this, and the starting rotation has some holes. That's everybody. So when you look at the power rankings, the Dodgers are number 1, the Phillies are 2, great. Yankees are 3, Mets are 4, Braves are 5, and the Padres coming at number 6.
Padres are number 6.
They drop them 2 spots from 4, and it's not like they have Sasaki signed. This is not like, well, we're going to guess they're going to make some moves. This is how they are currently constructed. What MLB.com has put together. They think the Padres are better than the Orioles. They think they're better than the Diamondbacks. They think they're better than the Braves. The Astros, the Brewers. I mean, those are all teams that are going to be competing for a playoff spot. So even though it might seem like, I can't believe it, we lost XYZ, and this team got so much better. I mean, they were right there on the cusp of knocking out the Dodgers last year with the team that they had, with the team that the Padres had, and not a lot has changed. Look, you don't have Profar and Scott were the free agents you lost, and Kim is still out there on the market. Those are 3 losses, obviously.
And you don't have Joe Musgrove because of the injury.
And you lose Joe because of the injury, but, I mean, he missed a significant amount of time last year, and so did you, Darvish. You still have a lot of decent players left. There's still a couple moves you can make, but you're competing with what you're competing with to make the playoffs, because that's all that really matters now. I mean, you can't even think about the division. And we talked about that the last couple of years. You just got to be able to beat the Dodgers in 5, and the Padres are more than capable of doing that. And how do you get yourself to that point? You have to outlast some of these teams that we just mentioned.
Yeah.
I mean, let me ask Padres fans right now: would you rather have the Diamondbacks roster or the Padres roster? I mean, the pitching staff for the Diamondbacks is pretty good in the starting rotation. Their bullpen's okay. I'd rather have the Padres lineup than the Diamondbacks lineup. So I think the Padres are still better than Arizona. Don't have to worry about Colorado. San Francisco's done a little bit, but not a lot. The Braves lost a couple of arms. even though they're adding some position players back.
The Mets have to continue on what they built last year.
Right. I mean, Sean Manaea needs to be what he was last year. They spent a lot of money. They put a lot of eggs in that basket. But even then, last year was it's not like the Mets on paper are like this insane team that you have to worry about.
The Brewers are always, because that division, they're all, I'm not necessarily, I don't look at their roster and say the Padres can't beat the Brewers.
Padres are definitely better than anybody in the Central.
Yeah.
And then you're competing with 2 teams in the East and probably 2 teams in the West. So you got, relatively there's 5 teams battling for 3 spots. I mean, that's why you have to look at it right now. And I like the Padres lineup and roster compared to a lot of those teams. And apparently, so does MLB.com.
Yeah, and there's a question in the chat. Where were the Padres previously ranked? They were ranked number 4 last year. They're ranked number 6. That's not really that much of a difference, okay? But it is a funny thing where Braden and I were talking before the show, and we were like, is San Diego the only place that doesn't think the Padres have any chance? Is it just kind of our community that's sort of like, wait a second, what's wrong with this team? They're not signing anyone. And listen, I don't even think, I know, like Brandon and I aren't trying to be Pollyanna here. We're not trying to be like unicorns and roses. There are definite issues and needs that the team has. But I was thinking about this 2 weeks ago. I was like, man, the Padres have like 3/4 of a team. Like they have a good 3/4 of a team. They need that last quarter, yes. But they have a pretty good 3/4 as it stands right now. And I do think that the rest of the country looks around and sees the Padres probably with a more threat than maybe the community does, just because I think that there is an association with spending money in the offseason, which does help, right? Obviously to go out and get players, but making moves and where your team is or is going to perform. And it's almost like everybody you signed every other year prior to this year is chopped liver. That's kind of the sentiment that kind of comes with it. It's all about who you sign right now and who you bring on right now. And they do need to fill these gaps, and they do need to better their team on the margins. There's no doubt about it. But you're coming in with the 3/4 good team, like a team that is pretty darn strong.
Nate asks, what was the rank last year? I found it.
Yeah,
January 1st, 2024. No, that was from the last power ranking.
Oh.
January 1st, 2024. Who's on top to begin 2024? You ready for this list?
Yeah, let's do it.
Number 1 was Atlanta.
Oh.
Then it was the Dodgers. Then it was the Rangers, coming off a World Series. Then it was the Orioles. Then it was the Phillies. Top 10 was Astros, Rays, Yankees, Diamondbacks, Blue Jays. Padres were 16th.
16th. Okay, that also tells us that the rankings really don't mean a
doesn't
lot
mean
at this
anything.
point in the season at all.
It's hard to pick, right? I mean, the Rangers were coming off a World Series. They had all these other guys, right?
The Braves were the hot team coming into that
injuries
season.
Knocked them down,
yes.
right? I mean, you look at some of the teams near the top, and most of those did end up making the playoffs, but not all of them did. And you look at like the way some of these teams finished. I mean, the Padres 16th. Yeah. Twins were 17th. That was another playoff caliber team. Brewers were 14th in the middle of the road, right? So
and we know
it's hard to pick.
We know the rankings are meaningless. It's a subjective thing. But the point of, is this team a little more, I don't even know if it's sneaky good. Is it just a little more good than it's getting credit for, right? It's kind of where we're going with the Padres.
I think it's definitely better than what we would think. But think about this at the same time. What was the roster like last year on January 1st?
I mean, I was
no Arise, no Cease. They didn't have Profar at all.
They had signed Matsui and Usago.
They had nothing.
Yeah,
right?
I mean they had like no one, right?
They
had done the trade. They had done the trade with Juan Soto, but other than that, they had just signed. But there was a lot of
question marks, right?
Yes,
it was like King was transitioning to be a starting pitcher, and Johnny Brito and Vasquez, and you got Kyle Higashioka. The team right now on January 9th, 2025, is a lot more complete than it was on January 1st, 2024, as we compare the two power rankings. But the core is still really good. And when you have guys like Fernando and Manny and now Jackson Merrill and Xander Bogaerts and these players that are locked in for a long time into the season, you're always going to be in contention for a playoff spot. And the reality is that's all that really matters.
Who is throwing at Petco Park that might be brought back? A familiar face returning that is throwing at Petco Park sounds like this afternoon, or at least recently, maybe doing a little audition. Oh.
What a tease.
What a tease. We're going to tell you. Guess what? We're going to tell you on the other side. Keep it right here. Annie and Elsten, 97.3 The Fan. 11:42 on a Thursday, rolling right along almost to the halfway mark on the Annie and Elsten show here on 97.3 The Fan, San Diego's #1 sports station. I'm Annie Heilbrand, joined by Braden Soprenet. I thought I was so slick last segment with a tease.
It was a good tease,
unfortunately. Working on my tease chops, right? Unfortunately, I don't think it's much of anything at all. So I'm going to let you guys see for yourself. MJ Matson, at MJ Matson on Twitter. I'm shouting you out, buddy. Obviously lives above Petco Park.
Good for you, buddy.
Yeah. First of all, credit to you there, right? But second, showed a video of someone pitching that I think people thought was Tim Hill, but maybe it's Tom Cosgrove. I honestly don't know who it is. So
I don't think it's Tim Hill.
I don't think it's Tim Hill either. Yeah. So forget my tease. It's just, another day at Petco Park working on things.
We'll work on it.
Yeah, we'll work on it. But we're going to get to a different topic. We're going to switch gears right now and get a little into college football. And the press conference, Braden, for college football the other day with the two head coaches got a little interesting. It got a little dicey where the head coach for
Penn State.
Thank you, Penn State.
James Franklin.
And I always want to say Morgan Freeman for who am I...
it's
Freeman something or other.
It is Freeman.
Yes, but anyways. All right, so he got into how he thinks, look, the conferences should be level set. They should be fair. They should not be different. Notre Dame should not be treated differently as an independent and subject to being a lot more flexible with what they can do.
Marcus Freeman.
That's
Freeman.
Why you thank you.
Morgan.
Yes.
Morgan,
I'm only
Marcus.
thinking of Freemans in my mind, last names. So I thought it got pretty interesting. And you want to start with the sound? Let's play the sound of what he said.
So the press conference, again, the game is tonight at the Orange Bowl. Notre Dame, Penn State for the college football playoff semifinal. Winner will go to the national championship. Penn State out of the Big Ten Conference going against Notre Dame, who is one of the only schools left that is independent. Only a couple schools that are independent. Yeah. Here's James Franklin, head coach of Penn State, talking about what he believes every school should be in a conference as he sits at the podium with Marcus Freeman next to him as part of the head coach's press conference. Yeah. Those on YouTube can watch. Awkward. Everybody on radio can listen.
I think it should be consistent across college football. I think, again, this is no knock at Coach or Notre Dame, but I think everybody should be in a conference. I think everybody should play a conference championship game, or no one should play a conference championship game. I think everybody should play the same number of conference games, but just the numbers are going to make things more challenging if you're playing one more conference game. So I just think things need to be consistent across college football.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
100% agree with that statement. But the thing with Notre Dame, and the thing that the thing is they're only independent for football. They're in the ACC for everything else because they need all the other sports to be consistent. The thing with Notre Dame, and BYU tried it, is they're a national brand. Everybody knows about Notre Dame. They're really good back in the day. They've had their own TV contract, right?
Movies were made.
All the Catholics root for them, right? So they have this big following. I don't want to use cult because it is a Catholic school. So they have this big following, right? So
that's fair though. They have a lot of fans. They have a lot of people that follow the team.
They're very in the position where they can do this. But the thing with Notre Dame, and here's the unfair advantage that Notre Dame has, and Notre Dame has a major unfair advantage, and it makes a lot of sense now when you saw the 12-team playoff come about, and the biggest backer of it, and the one that came about it, was the athletic director of Notre Dame. And he set it up, and it made it look like everybody was getting a good deal, but they were sacrificing. They couldn't get the first-round bye because they're like, well, that's only got to be conference champions. And you're sitting there like, what's the deal? Like, why are they doing this? This is, Notre Dame, by setting their own schedule, will always be able to control who they get to play for all 12 games. Mm-hmm. They don't have to really do anything challenging. They get the clout of being Notre Dame, so all they got to do really is go 10-2
Now they do they set their schedule up though a little bit to be a little challenging?
I mean, there's a couple of challenging games in there, and then there's some not so challenging games in there, and then they have a contract with the ACC to play certain ACC schools, but it's not the same, right? It's not the same. Like they get to control everything.
It's not the same as having to be in a conference,
right?
And, yes,
like Penn State has to do with having to deal with, and up until this year with
and the
divisions,
travel and the everything.
right? Like Penn State had to play Ohio State and Michigan every year because they're in the same division. Tennessee had to play Alabama as the cross-division rival, and Georgia every year.
Yes.
Notre Dame gets to play the military academies because of tradition. They get to play USC because of tradition. They play Stanford because of tradition. I mean, these are a lot of schools that aren't, and even though Army and Navy were a lot better, as I rep Army today, even though they're a lot better this season, they're not even close to being at the same caliber as Notre Dame or any of the other Power 5 schools that they would normally have to play. On top of that, the biggest reason why they will never join a conference unless they are forced to is their TV contract. NBC pays them directly to air all their games. So instead of every other conference that has a TV contract that has to split it amongst all their schools, and there's some unfairness in that too, right? I mean, if you're the Big Ten and you're big blue bloods right now, or Ohio State and Oregon and Michigan and Penn State, and you're carrying the slack for Nebraska and Minnesota and Indiana, Purdue. It's like, hang on, we're the reason why people watch us, and we have to split the contract with everybody else. Same thing in the SEC, Big 12, ACC. They split their TV money. On top of that, not only does Notre Dame get the whatever amount of money they get from NBC that they get to just pocket themselves, by playing in these bowl games and all of these payouts for the playoff, the teams that won to get to this point, Penn State, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Texas, they all made $14 million winning last week. $14 million.
Not bad.
Not bad. Now,
not bad if you can get it.
That $14 million goes to their conference and is split amongst all the other schools that aren't in the playoff. So the Big Ten got $28 million, and they were going to get that guaranteed because Ohio State was playing Oregon. And Penn State had already won. But the Big Ten got $28 million that they got to distribute amongst their 16 schools, or 18, whatever they have. Yeah. Texas got $14 million for the SEC, so they all split their money. Notre Dame got $14 million, so they split it with nobody. Even though they got to deal with the ACC, they don't have to pay the ACC a dime of that $14 million. Pocket it. So they pocket it. So they get the first round home game that they get to keep the money on, aside from what they have to probably pay the college football playoff. They get the next round money pocketed because they don't have to split it. If they win again, I don't know. It does increase, I think, per allotment, just like it did for the NCAA tournament for basketball. Again, they just get to pocket it. Why would you ever give that up? That's like we talk about in baseball. That's like telling the Yankees and the Dodgers they got to give up their TV contracts for the betterment of everybody else. Notre Dame's never going to do that unless you force them to.
Unless they have to.
There's different rules for different fools, and you got all these different conferences. Like James Franklin says, the Big 12 plays 9 conference games. The SEC plays 8. They only play 8 conference games. So while the Big 12 was playing all these teams, right, that they have to go on the road.
Backwards, man. I got to tell you.
The SEC gets to play Mercer in Week 15 and take a bye week while everybody else is gutting it out in conference play.
See, very briefly, I'm someone who thinks it should all be the same. I think it should all be consistent. It should all be the same. But if it's not, and the ruling is that it's not, it's just like NIL. It's the wild, wild west. So you're going to monopolize whatever advantageous edge you can get.
Right. Well, they're like, college football is a lot like baseball when it comes to this. There's, with the exception of that would be like the divisions signing contracts, right? Okay. It'd be like the NL West has to deal with ESPN or something like that. But it's relatively the same. It's not uniform like the NFL is.
I think it should be uniform like the NFL.
The problem with college football, there's nobody in charge of college football.
Right, that's what it means.
They would need a commissioner, and then they have to put this in, and there's all this stuff, but it all involves money, and nobody wants to share.
It's probably not fair, and you can scream about it not being fair, but it's also allowed, So it's enabled.
And they always go back on, traditionally this is what they've done. Traditionally, it's what they've done. They've always done this. I mean, you could pull up Notre Dame's schedule. It's not like the greatest schedules in the world. There's some
traditionally
good
we didn't
teams
allow
in there.
women into locker rooms and clubhouses, but times change.
Yeah, there's a lot of the thing that's holding college football back a lot is traditional things. I mean, with a lot of different things, but
it is when you can hold on to the good of it. You know what I mean? Like when it's working for you, yeah, like you want to stick with that tradition, right? Because it's an advantage for you.
Right. So, I mean, you look at Notre Dame, they played Texas A&M the first week on the road. Yeah, it's a good game. A lot of schools play those good games. They got Northern Illinois, who they lost to. They played Purdue, who's one of the worst teams in college football. Miami of Ohio. Louisville was okay in the ACC. Stanford wasn't very good. Georgia Tech, solid. Navy and Army, the two military schools. Florida State, who was awful. Virginia, who's not very good, and then they finished the season with SC. I mean, it's not like a world beater schedule, and I know they don't play any FCS schools, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, and at the same time, and the conference schedule for all these other schools is a lot better than Notre Dame, who gets to play most of their games at home.
That's also pretty nice.
How many true road games, if you had to guess how many road games Notre Dame had, true road games that Notre Dame played on the road, how many games would they have?
I have no idea.
Out of a 12-game schedule, they played 3 games on the road.
Oh, only 3?
3. They played at Texas A&M. They played at Purdue, which is in their own state against a lousy team that they probably dominated the fan base. And then they played at SC. Every other game was either at home or a neutral site for Notre Dame. So when people want to say, like, well, their schedule is just as difficult as some of it's not. Playing conference games on the road is the most difficult thing to do in college football, and Notre Dame doesn't have to do it. Just like a lot of these conference teams, these SEC schools don't have to do.
Yeah.
And that's why that first round of the playoff being played at home stadiums is going to be almost impossible to win on the road because these schools never do it.
I think that having those advantages, like having home field advantage and having the advantage to pick your schedule and
all
have
12 of them.
flexibility and your travel and everything like that. I mean, it is an advantage. I definitely see where these other coaches are coming from. And it was for Marcus Freeman, like handled it really nicely, and said, look, we've always, like you just said, lean on the tradition. We've always been an independent. We pride ourselves on that. But we're going to, whatever ends up happening, like we're going to play the game as it lies, right? Like if the rules ever get changed in the future or they have to be forced to do something differently. But I do understand where other coaches are coming from, where it's like, how do you take all these different things and then push them together at the end and say they're all equal?
Yeah, you can't. And then you judge, and then you have 12 people try to decide who the playoffs are instead of just going automatic qualifiers. That's the thing. That's what they got to do. Here's how you're going to be an automatic qualifier. If you don't like it, you better join a conference, and this is how we're doing things now. Tradition be damned, but it ain't about tradition. It's about the big fat paycheck that they get all the time.
It's always about money.
It's about the paycheck.
It's going to be about the sports fix coming up next. Keep it right here. Annie and Elsten, 97.3 The Fan. All right, it is 12 o'clock. You know what that means. It is time for the Sports Fix. We're going to take you around all the different leagues and give you all the different updates. And we're going to start with Major League Baseball. Annie and Elsten show, 97.3 The Fan. I'm Annie Heilbrunn, joined by Braden Suprenant.
Music will be back in a second.
Music will be back in a second as we get into the Sports Fix. Well, let's start with arbitration. And while we're waiting for that, I will set everyone up that the Padres and all teams in Major League Baseball had an arbitration deadline today by 10 a.m. to either settle with their players on a guaranteed salary for 2025 or to schedule a court date and say we're going toward arbitration. Now, if they didn't settle on a number, which one Padre didn't, and that is Michael King, his hearing is going to get set up for like February, most likely. They can still come to an agreement before that hearing, and he will avoid that whole process of being in a courtroom and hearing about all the things that he does wrong. It'll just be like today was like, think of today like a soft deadline, but they still have until his hearing. All right, so let's get into it. Adrian Morejon and the Padres agreed on a $2 million contract for 2025. Luis Arraez and the Padres agreed on a $14 million salary. Luis Campusano and the Padres settled at $1 million. Dylan Cease, $13.75 million. He settled with the Padres. Jason Adam, $4.8 million. All of those guys avoided arbitration. Michael King and the Padres did not settle by 10 a.m., so they could be headed to their first arbitration hearing since 2014. AJ Preller does not like arbitration hearings. He tries to avoid it at all costs. We'll see if they're able to do that before the hearing is scheduled. And just because I see it in the chat all the time, these guys can still be traded. They are just now have a guaranteed salary for what they'll make in 2025. All right, the Mets, Astros, Blue Jays, and Angels are among the teams that have checked in on free agent outfielder Alex Verdugo this offseason. Fansided's Robert Murray reported earlier this week that the Pirates were also interested in the lefty. Yes, the lefty. Verdugo is looking to bounce back after a disappointing year in the Bronx. He hit just .233 over 621 plate appearances as a Yankee, .291 on base percentage. The A's officially announced a 5-year contract extension with designated hitter Brent Rooker. The deal includes a club vesting option for 2030. Rooker, a client of the Bledsoe agency, is reportedly guaranteed the full $60 million. And that is all I have on the Major League Baseball front.
In terms of the NFL and college football and college basketball, we'll start with the National Football League. Raiders have parted ways with general manager Tom Telesco after one season.
Man.
Team announced Thursday. Move comes 2 days after the team fired coach Antonio Pierce after his first full season as the team's coach. We appreciate his efforts in helping build a foundation for the future. We wish Tom and his family all the best, the team said in a statement. Raiders finished 4-13 this season, hampered by an unsettled quarterback situation. Telesco signed Gardner Minshew, giving him a 2-year, $25 million contract with $15 million guaranteed. Minshew began the season as a starter, but was benched in favor of Aiden O'Connell after 5 games. Both Minshew and O'Connell dealt with injuries during the season, forcing the team also to start Desmond Ridder. Raiders hired Telesco last January 23rd. Didn't even make it a year. Less than 6 weeks after he was fired, along with coach Brandon Staley by the Chargers following a 63-21 loss to Las Vegas. Telesco, 52, had been the Chargers GM since 2013.
I don't know if you fire a guy after 1 year in that spot.
You
got to
give
give
him
him a
1
little
year.
chance to create a roster that,
You give him 1 year, and he has to inherit the interim head coach from the year before.
Exactly. And the roster.
And the roster. You
there's only
can't
so
flip
much
a
you can
roster
do
in
from
a year.
Exactly. The quarterback situation did suck, but again, that's exactly it. Like, you got to give a little time to develop.
You got to get these leagues and stuff want everything immediately. Like they can just flip it on a dime, and it's almost impossible.
Or they figure it's so easy to go get someone else, and maybe Tom Brady does have someone in mind that he wants to bring in on the GM side. I don't know, if how much they're. I'm saying that tongue in cheek, how much they're leaning on him. But
Bill Belichick.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe Bill Belichick too. Maybe Bill Belichick's going to be the GM instead of the head coach. I mean. Did you see
Carolina guys.
that they inquired about being the Raiders head coach?
I did see that.
Okay, well,
I did see that the teams are asking North Carolina about interviewing Bill Belichick.
Maybe Tom Brady's going to be his GM.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Owner and GM. Where have we seen that before? Oh, wait.
Oh, wait.
Down in Dallas. Ravens have ruled out Pro Bowl wide receiver Zay Flowers versus the Steelers. Lamar Jackson will be without his top target at the start of the postseason. Zay Flowers was ruled out in the wild card game against the Steelers Saturday night Flowers injured his right knee in Saturday's regular season finale and did not practice all week. Moments after Ravens coach John Harbaugh made the announcement Thursday that Flowers wouldn't play, the former first-round pick walked through the locker room wearing a brace on his injured knee. We'll move forward with the guys we have. Harbaugh said, we're excited about the guys we have. Nose Flowers this weekend for Baltimore. College football.
Wait, real quick. Now they're refuting that Bill Belichick story. The North Carolina football GM.
Who is that? Lombardi?
Yes, it's Lombardi. Yep. Is saying just because Tom Brady calls him and asks him for advice doesn't mean he wants them. So now they're refuting. Just all the facts are out there. Okay,
wow,
continue, Brady.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you'll sleep better at night knowing that.
Exactly. Thanks, Lombardi. Appreciate it.
Thanks for saying the record straight, Lombardi.
Except for the fact that Lombardi would never do that job unless Belichick was there and doesn't want to leave after they just signed up to do it.
Why don't you let the spice be spicy? Okay?
Yeah, let it be spicy.
Yeah.
It's good Carolina heat out there. We kind of just talked about this, but it's interesting, the headline. While discussing the opportunity that awaits Penn State in the college football playoff, Coach James Franklin said Wednesday that the showdown against Notre Dame is about, quote, representing our schools and our conferences. Franklin then caught himself realizing Notre Dame coach Marcus Freeman was sitting just to his right. Or our conference, excuse me, Franklin said. Penn State will be representing the Big Ten against FBS independent Notre Dame in the college football playoff semifinal at the Capital One Orange Bowl on Thursday night at Hard Rock Stadium. Nittany Lions reached the Big Ten championship game before earning a number 6 seed in the 12-team playoff, while the Fighting Irish made the playoff as an at-large and earned the 7 seed despite playing in one fewer game. Franklin going on to say he thinks larger college football playoff ultimate requires more uniformity around college football, including every team to be part of a conference and playing the same number of league games. Notre Dame, one of the 3 remaining FBS independents, sees its status as central to the school's identity. And has resisted chances to join the Big Ten or other conferences over the years. Fighting Irish compete in the ACC for most of their other major sports, and they have a scheduling agreement with the ACC in football. But, of course, they want the money of the check.
Doesn't everybody?
Headline from ESPN, though, says, James Franklin stresses college football uniformity. Quote, everyone should be in a conference. But it says on the on the front page, ridiculous headline slander, in my opinion.
That he's
Franklin jabs at Notre Dame. Would you consider that a jab?
No, I didn't consider that a jab.
I don't think anything about that is a jab.
He answered the question honestly. Yeah, is it a little awkward with the Notre Dame head coach sitting right there? They can both handle it. They're both big grown men, okay? Like, they're both big boys. They can
jab.
I think
ESPN says it's a jab at Notre Dame.
And I think Marcus Freeman also understands exactly where he's coming from with that comment.
Marcus Freeman, as a coach, probably agrees with James,
but
also
can't say
understands
it out
where
loud,
the money
right?
is coming from, and it's like, this is most funding for my school.
And he's like, we're good.
Because nobody outside of Notre Dame,
completely agree.
Yeah, everybody outside of Notre Dame wants there to be everybody in the conference. Notre Dame's like, no. Collecting $14 million every time we win. This is great. College basketball last night, Gonzaga beat USD 93-80. USD was outscored 47-34. Played even with Gonzaga in the second half up at the McCarthy Athletic Center in Spokane, Washington. Tough loss for the Toreros, but valiant effort nonetheless. Aztecs hammered Air Force as they cruised to a 34-14 second half to win 67-38. With the win, San Diego State improves to 3-1 in Mountain West Conference play, 10-3 on the season. A couple of big games coming up this weekend in college basketball. UCSD will be in action tonight against Cal Poly. Cal Poly is 6-10 on the season, 0-4 in Big 12 play, Big West play, and are 0-42 in their last 42 conference games in the Big West Conference. Now, that being said, their starting lineup is only really they only account for 4 of those losses, and a lot better of a lineup than they've had the last couple of years. Yeah. So don't sleep on Cal Poly tonight if you're UCSD, as they're 14.5-point favorites, the Tritons are, as they get prepared for Irvine coming up.
Difficult.
On Saturday, which will be on ESPNU. So UCSD and Cal Poly in action tonight at 7 o'clock at Lion Tree Arena here in town. Saturday, a couple of games at home, or a couple of games here in San Diego. Tritons will host Irvine, the Anteaters, at 7 o'clock. And the USD Toreros will host St. Mary's, one of the better teams of the West Coast Conference, on Saturday. Aztecs will be in New Mexico to take on the Lobos, and that's a look at college football,
Good
and
basketball.
Yeah, it's a big week of basketball.
Big week and good games and like interesting games. Quickbird in the chat says UCSD got a top 25 coaches vote this week. I think their first ever.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Did
didn't have
UCSD
time to
vote for
check that, but
themselves?
that sounds good.
UCSD vote for themselves? I don't think they did. Eric Olin wouldn't do that.
No, Eric Olin, and they're doing well.
They are.
Yeah, they're doing a good job.
They're in a great position to make the NCAA tournament. Probably a one bid league. Probably gonna have to win the conference tournament in Vegas.
Yeah,
but they're in a good spot. I mean, this is a big test. These next two games, being able to take care of business against Cal Poly, and then worry about Irvine on Saturday.
Who's the mascot for the Irvine?
They're the Anteaters.
That's right.
That's what they do.
Is that what anteaters do?
Yeah, they say rip them. Anteaters can rip things apart.
Wow.
The mascot says Zot. Apparently, that's what an anteater
Remember,
says.
I think ants are very, very, very fascinating. So
Yeah, well, that means you don't like Peter the Anteater then. Zot.
No, why wouldn't I like him? He's,
Right. He's anti-ants.
No, I'm for ants. I think that
I
they're
know,
like
that's what I'm saying.
villages. I don't know. I'm lost now.
Tritons, as of the latest bracketology, but Joel and already have a potential. They would be considered the automatic qualifier of the Big West.
Okay.
As a 12 seed taking on Mick Cronin's UCLA Bruins.
Oh.
5-12 matchup in Denver, Colorado.
I mean, I would like a little spice from that one, you know? Let's see what Mick says about it.
Yeah, because UCSD is the exact opposite of what Mick's got at UCLA, apparently, according to what he has to say. San Diego State is listed as an 8 seed, not the automatic qualifier of the Mountain West. Probably a multi-bid league. Aztecs are probably going to be in as long as they take care of business throughout the majority of the season.
Yes.
8 seed going against St. John's, the 9,
Yeah.
with Tennessee being the number 1 team paired with in that bracket in Lexington, Kentucky. So take
Wait,
that for what it's worth.
anteaters eat ants? Wait, whoa.
Wait, what?
Whoa, what is happening?
In the chat?
I thought anteaters are just a form of an...
No, anteaters are
Ant.
like... No, you ever seen an anteater before?
Oh my God, I just looked up an anteater. This is why my mom got me that encyclopedia for animals.
Anteaters, they eat ants.
Oh, these are
That's why
not
they are
ants. These are big
Anteater.
animals.
Yeah,
with-
they're gigantic animals.
They rip open their powerful forelimbs and claws and then ingest with their sticky tongue on ants and termites.
They're mean too. They can rip. They can rip
They're
things
not
apart.
they're not very pretty looking. You know, they're like
An anteater?
an anteater. Look at what an anteater looks like.
I know what they got them at the zoo. They got them at San Diego Zoo. Here's that's their mascot, Peter the Anteater.
Okay.
He's got big biceps over there.
I mean, the name says it all. Anteater.
Yeah,
I don't know
why
why
that
I
was-
thought it was like a form of an ant. Like, oh man, guys, I'm not in a good spot.
They got the facts of Peter the Anteater. Birthday, November 30th, 1965. He's getting up there in age.
He is. He
Hometown
still looks good though.
Irvine, California. Stature, a buff 6'9".
Oh yeah.
That is a
that's
gigantic
nice.
mascot.
Nice. Yeah.
He's got a sign on there. Education
Sagittarius.
in college. Been in college a long time.
Yes, he has.
Clubs, UC
like a
Irvine
50-year
Athletics,
senior.
Anteater Band. Favorite movies, Empire of the Ants, Ants, and Ant-Man. Favorite TV shows, UC Irvine sporting events, of course.
Blue Meanie says the babies are cute. I mean, he still looks good. You know, he hasn't
Peter the
aged all that
Anteater? No,
much.
he looks... Yep.
All right. Well,
I can't believe that. I can't believe you didn't actually...
No, for some reason, the whole time we were talking about ants, I was thinking about ants, like not anteaters, like just a
The
form of
anteaters.
ants. Oh man. Okay. Well, now you know
It's
what
got
it's
a hell
like
of
to
a
go through
snout.
life with my my brain and my mind. It takes a second sometimes to
Yeah.
click in.
Anteaters have a hell of a snout.
Yeah. Look at that. Like look at the big body and then like this like really tiny but long snout,
Yeah,
like
it's to-
powerful
to
snout.
get through the with a long tongue to get to the the ant colony. Anteater. There you go. That's your science for the
Oh
day.
man. Okay. Well, anyways,
So that's what the Tritons are going up against on Saturday.
So yeah, Braden, like you were saying, a very good week, a very interesting week of college basketball, and of course the Aztecs won last night, beating Air Force, and we talked about it earlier in the show. Rough start, but they were able to turn it around and then go on a very good run, 40-4 run. So they did a nice job closing that one out. But yeah, it should be pretty interesting going forward. And then not overlooking tonight's game is a big one for UCSD.
Yeah, you got to leave that game saying 0-43, big dog. 0-43.
all we can do.
Yeah, you don't want to be the first team to lose to Cal Poly, even though they're this is a lot better Cal Poly team than they've been. in the past.
But you really don't, because that's going to be your headline. I mean, after a streak like that,
Yeah.
all you do, it doesn't matter who beats you. It's like the streak is broken. So
pressure's on. You
Yeah.
can't be losing that game. And Cal Poly's going to freak out if they win. I have to listen to 0-42. 0-43 needs to be the signs tonight at the Lion Tree Arena.
Not 1-42. Not 1-42. Have you been to the Lion Tree Arena recently?
I have. I've been a couple of times. It's beautiful.
It's a good time, right?
State-of-the-art facility now. The video board's great. They UCSD put a ton of money into their TV production, so they got their control room at the top. That's state-of-the-art. Spent a lot of money on that. And no, it's a really nice place to watch a basketball game.
It is. I think people can get in there like relatively inexpensively, to watch a game. So go check it out. It is a really cool part of the campus, and they did a lot to make it really nice, and a good view.
That is one of the places in San Diego I get lost every time.
I get lost at UCSD.
UCSD's
in
campus
general.
is a maze. I don't know how to get around that place.
Sometimes players do like camps there.
Yeah.
So I would go in and cover the camp, and you can't find.
No, I don't know how to
anything.
get to the campus.
Right.
It's so hard. I'll look at a map 1,000 times and I still can't figure it out. Not every road goes through. Google Maps can't handle it either.
Oh no,
they have no idea.
That whole area gets crazy too.
Labyrinth. I don't know how to get around UCSD at all.
And then they have all the different colleges, like they're like Muir College.
Yeah, they're the 7 colleges.
Yeah, they have all,
it is.
but then even those don't make sense sometimes. So.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh look, there's that world famous library you see in ads. Yes. Where's Lion Tree? I'm trying to find. Oh, it's on this side. I can't. How do I get there? Then there are baseball fields on the other side of the freeway. It's on that part of the campus because it's on both sides of Interstate 5.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to get around. I can't figure out how to get there.
It's crazy.
And once I'm there, it's not like you could get from one side of campus to the other easily.
No, because it's a maze. It's a labyrinth. You there's no right. You can't cross through.
Yeah, I'm trying to find. There it is. There's Lion Tree. It makes it, and then you're just like, well, maybe I can take Genesis. No, you can't. It's impossible to get there, coming from certain ways.
Callan in the chat says, at least the trolley drops you off near the baseball stadium, but that doesn't help if you're going to Lion Tree or Remac.
No, there's only one.
But the baseball stadium, yes.
One parking garage there. They've hosted so many CIF events that I've had to cover and stuff like that. It's just like I feel like I'd be better at it, but trying to get there is just
we used to have dance competitions there in their theater and trying to get to that too, because you go in the wrong entrance or you go the wrong way, and like you said, you're going all the way up and down some other route, like you're having to come back on the main street, and it's crazy.
Yeah. If you've made it to Hopkins Drive, you're in a good spot.
All right, Braden, I got a question for you. Is Coach Prime the world's largest helicopter parent?
Well, if you ask the people in Denver.
We're going to get into that. All right, keep it right here. Annie and Elsten, 97.3 The Fan. We'll be right back. All right, football fans, listen up. Need that extra edge for game day? Then you need to cash the ticket. Numbers, angles, ball busting. The podcast for football junkies. New episodes every Thursday and Friday. Mike Valenti and Jim Costa are breaking down the biggest matchups and finding the best value on the board every single week. Cash the Ticket is the podcast to help you bet smarter on both pro and college games. Follow Cash the Ticket on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. Annie and Elsten here on 97.3 The Fan. I'm Annie Halbrin, joined by Braden Surprenant. We're taking you all the way through 2 p.m. when we will turn the reins over to Gwen and Chris, followed by the Matt Scraby Show, which I believe would be airing tonight because I don't think that there's any preamps for that.
I don't know if we're covering the football game or not.
Oh.
If it's part of the Westwood One coverage or not.
You may or may not hear
I don't
Matthew
know.
Scraby.
Give me a second.
Okay.
We'll be able to find
Westwood One.
Westwood One. Hang on a second.
All right. Well, either way, excited, happy to be with you. We've already had a really good show. Talked to Jake Peavy at 10:35. If you missed it, go back and listen to that. He gave a great interview about all things baseball, San Diego, his career. He's being inducted into the Breitbart Hall of Fame on Monday, along with Adrian Gonzalez and Sharday Houston.
Scraby Show is scheduled.
Scraby Show is scheduled for 6 p.m. tonight. Also had a great conversation earlier in the show about college football and whether or not the playing field is actually a fair one. So you can go back to the 11:40 p.m. It's not p.m. 11:40 a.m. part of the show to hear that. And then we talked a whole lot of Padres in between, and we will get back to some more Padres throughout the show as it's been a busy day with arbitration. I know people are always tuning in and wanting to know what's going on with that. But we got a little sound, Braden, from good old Deion Sanders, who never fails to give us a little talking point here or there, right? Now, there's been so much speculation about whether or not he is going to go to the NFL, whether he's going to follow his son to the NFL, whether he's going to follow his sons to the NFL, and a few landing spots that we were kind of speculating, like could he go to the Raiders? Could he go to the Jets? Was he going to go to the Cowboys? You know, it's been a topic of conversation, I think, around football circles. So he was on with the morning show, I think ABC Morning Show, or I might have that wrong, but we'll see it here in a second. Talking a little bit about what would get him to go to the NFL. And are we good?
Yep.
All right, let's cue it up and let's listen to Dion here. Let's listen to Coach Prime.
You could head to the NFL.
I know where you're going. you try to go viral, right? Yeah. If I respond, you know we're going viral, right?
I know, right?
You know what? The only way I would consider is to coach my son. Not son. No. Sons. Okay.
I think we're going to go viral with that.
Yeah.
So that's not a no.
Well, I love Colorado. Now, I love my Buffaloes. I love everything that we're building. I love everything that we're doing, and I love Boulder, Colorado. I do.
But is there a chance that you could head to the NFL?
So he was on Good Morning America, so I made sure to give the proper credit there. So Braden, he says sons. He's very clear that it's not son. It's not just Shador. It's sons. Any surprise to you there? What do you think that means? Does it mean anything?
Well, the thing is, it's interesting is when he took that job, you were thinking like, how long is he going to stay? But I think you got to. This is going to be a big defining next couple of years of whether or not he wants to be a coach or if he's just, as it was said in the paper in Denver, the world's largest helicopter parent, because he started his deal coaching at Jackson State. And that was a place that, he wanted to help out an HBCU and everything like that. And then his kids showed up and were playing for him. And then he took the Colorado job. And then his kids followed him there. And then, right now both of his kids are going to be, in the National Football. I think both of them have entered the draft.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, does he want to coach? I don't think he really wants to coach in the NFL. But I think if he does, it's going to be, why coach on another team while your sons are playing on. But
do both of your sons have to go to the same team?
I know. Are they going to be on the same team? Or you got to coach one of your sons? It doesn't make any sense. He says he loves Colorado. I think it'd be telling. I mean, if he coaches another 2 or 3 years at Colorado without his kids, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, I would too. I think that if his kids go, if he's going to go, I think he's kind of. I think he's. But how do you do that really? I mean, I know he's Deion Sanders, and he can make a phone call, and does it mean head coach? Could he just be a coach? Could he just be part of the team? I mean, is it like that? Like he just wants to be part of their
saying
team,
what they do.
or it has to be the head coach. You're asking for a lot, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he. I'd be surprised if he continues to be the head coach of Colorado for a long period of time. I think he might do it a couple of years just to save face.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh no, he's always into coaching at Colorado, and everything like that. But it always seemed like it wasn't really, like a lot of it was built for the kids over there and not necessarily for his kids over there, not necessarily for the best of the program of Colorado. I mean, you can look at the recruiting rankings and everything. It was mostly transfers in during the period that Shedeur and Shiloh were playing.
Yeah.
Their high school recruiting has not been very good. Now a lot of and on paper hasn't been that great. They just got a pretty big sign, but like, is Dion going to be there for him to play at that point?
Right.
I don't think he will. And then is he going to be coaching and putting all this time in for all these kids and then not watch his sons play? It's interesting for a guy that doesn't need to do the job.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like he's always been a football coach. This is his livelihood and everything else. I mean, he's obviously, he could do a lot of different things. He's been on TV and everything like that. It'd probably be a lot easier for him to not coach. So I'd be shocked if he stays at Colorado for more than 2 more years.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens to that program after he does leave, because it's hard to leave that in a transferable state. You know what I mean? Like you're Deion Sanders, and you've kind of built it the way you want to build it, and you've recruited the way you want to recruit, and you've transferred a ton of people out, and you know what I mean? Like it's for the next head coach is going to be doing it his way. Like it's not like you can pass the torch and then continue on with maybe some of the fame that program has had, or some of the popularity that just comes with Deion Sanders, right? So, and I mean, and conversely, if he goes to an NFL team, that's going to follow him there, or at least the heat of it is going to follow him there, and there's going to be a lot of people that are looking at that almost not like nepotism, but a little bit like, depending on how well everything goes and how well everybody plays. So there's a lot of interesting things I think that'll maybe be a fallout from this.
I think you could pull it off in college. It can be hidden in college in a lot of towns where they just will turn. It's not, you can't hide it in the NFL.
In the NFL, right?
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it's just not going to work.
Right.
If some NFL team hires Dion to be their head coach, do not be surprised if both of his sons get drafted by said team.
Yeah, that I would agree with. I think I think you're doing that, and it's a package deal. It's, we're bringing Dion over, and that's going to end up being, who he brings over.
The scouts have already said, people have said, these mock drafts of Shedeur going early.
Yeah.
And a lot of NFL scouts out there have said, he doesn't project for us to be a first-round pick. But who knows?
Who knows? And
NFL
how
does a lot of weird things.
How certain arms get twisted and things get trades happen, and I mean we all know what happened with Eli Manning, and it's never impossible to kind of get your way. It's a different time, but it's never impossible to kind of manipulate things a little bit, depending on how lucrative it is for the team that's trying to get what they want. So. Anyways, we'll keep our eye on it going forward. Are we playing a game today, Braden?
Anybody knows.
Anybody knows.
You were playing for a chance to win an opportunity to win the grand prize for the month, which is a trip to Las Vegas to see the Scorpions on March 6th, plus a 2-night stay at Planet Hollywood and a $100 gas card. Scorpions return with their 60 years of the Scorpions Las Vegas residency show, live February 27th to March 11th. At Planet Hollywood Live at Planet Hollywood Resort and Casino. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.com.
So people should call in right now.
833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. If you want to take Annie down, and anybody knows.
Yes, we haven't played this in 2025 yet.
We haven't.
So call in. You're going to be going against me because it's called Anybody Knows. And it's 10 questions that they're not that tricky, but they make you think a little.
Make you think a little bit, but you just should be the obvious answer.
They should, yeah. You'll do great. You'll do great. So call in right now, right, Braden?
Yes.
Call in right now.
Lines are open.
Lines are open. We'll get you set up. We'll be right back right here on 97.3 The Fan, Annie and Elsten. Listen to Inside San Diego Baseball with Sam Levitt Wednesdays from 7 to 9 p.m. right here on 97.3 The Fan and on our YouTube page. Sam will talk all things Padres baseball and keep you up to date on the latest hot stove rumors, just like he did last night, as we had a full day of programming here on 97.3 The Fan, taking you all the way through till 9 p.m. with Sam Levitt. So good stuff. Braden, did we get any callers? Are we...
Got a couple on the line here.
Okay, we got a couple on the line.
We're going to go with...
He's going to get someone.
Yeah, let's get the music going here for a second. All right, we're going to go today, for anybody knows, Jason in Claremont. Jason, what's going on? Jason, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, let's go.
I'm Jason. I'm from Claremont.
All right, Jason. You are going to be our contestant today for Anybody Knows. You are playing for an opportunity to qualify for a trip to Vegas. Chance to win the grand prize. Trip to Las Vegas to see the Scorpions on March 6th. Plus 2-night stay at Planet Hollywood and a $100 gas card. Scorpions return with their 60 years of the Scorpions Las Vegas residency show.
Got it.
February 27th and March 11th at the PH Live at Planet Hollywood Resort and Casino. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. Jason, have you ever played Anybody Knows before? Do you understand the concept of the game?
Jason?
Are you there?
Yes.
All right. Have you ever played this game before? Do you know the concept?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you 10 questions. Andy's going to step
I'm going
out
to
of
leave
the
the room. Yeah. So Braden's got this.
I'm going to ask you 10 easy questions you should know the answers to. For everyone you get correct, you get a point. For everyone Annie gets correct, she will get a point. Whoever has the most points at the end of the contest will win said contest. You'll have a minute to answer these 10 questions, Jason. And for any reason any of them stump you, we can pass and move on to the next one. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right. 1 minute on the clock. We'll start when I ask you question number 1. In what competition could you see a double axel and a mohawk turn? What sport?
Skiing.
Say skiing?
Yeah, skiing.
Figure skating is what we were looking for. Question number 2. On Seinfeld, what serious movie was Jerry and his girlfriend caught making out during?
Titanic.
Looking for Schindler's List. Jewelry worn on the wrist is called a what?
Bracelet.
Bracelet is correct on the board. How many kidneys does a normal human have?
2.
2. Bruce Wayne appears in what DC comic?
Batman.
Batman. What popular athletic shoe and apparel company launched the Air Jordan sneaker in 1984?
Nike.
Nike. What letter appears on the left end of the bottom row of a keyboard?
Control.
Letter. Looking for the letter.
Oh. Z.
Z is correct. What do you get by mixing ginger ale with grenadine and a cherry? Popular kids drink.
One more time.
What do you get by mixing ginger ale with grenadine and a cherry?
Charlie Temple.
A Shirley Temple is correct. What is 3 of a kind and a pair in poker?
Full House.
Full House. What does the R stand for in USSR?
Russia.
Looking for Republic on that one, but not a bad performance out of you, Jason. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 10. Annie's turn. I should have to fix her camera coming back in.
What is his name again?
His name is Jason in Claremont.
How'd Jason do?
Not bad.
Okay.
He started off a little rough, but he
Okay.
was able to come back a little
All right.
bit. Well,
First 2025 game of Anybody Knows. So,
question number 1.
okay.
In what competition could you see a double axel and a mohawk turn?
Ice skating? Figure skating?
Figure skating is correct.
Okay.
On Seinfeld, what serious movie was Jerry and his girlfriend caught making out during?
Oh, God. I don't know. Schindler's List.
Schindler's
Oh,
List is
that right?
correct.
No way.
Yes, it is.
Okay, I must have heard that somewhere along the way.
Jewelry worn on the wrist.
Bracelet.
How many kidneys does a normal human have?
Uh-oh. 2 kidneys?
That is correct.
All right.
Bruce Wayne appears in what DC comic? Bruce Wayne is who?
Bruce Wayne is Spider-Man?
He is
Batman?
Batman. What popular athletic shoe and apparel company launched the Air Jordan sneaker in 1984?
That would be Nike.
Nike. What letter appears on the left end of the bottom row of a keyboard? I'm watching you. Don't look at your keyboard.
Left end of a bottom row of Q?
Look at your keyboard.
Z.
Z would be the correct answer. What do you get by mixing ginger ale and grenadine and a cherry? What is that drink called?
Ginger ale.
Yep.
And grenadine.
And a cherry.
Oh, I think I love these. Shirley Temple?
It's a Shirley Temple.
Oh, yeah. Suck down those cherries.
What is 3 of a kind and a pair in poker?
3 of a kind and a pair. Full house?
Full house.
All right.
And for the win,
wait, we're
if
not
you
done.
get this,
Okay.
you win. If you don't, we are tied and Jason wins.
Oh, Jason.
What does the R stand for in USSR?
USSR. Revolution? USSR.
That would be Republic. So
Republic.
Jason, tying at 7 out of 10, wins today's contest.
What
Congratulations.
did he miss?
Jason missed the first 2 questions.
Okay.
Figure skating and Schindler's List, and then
Yeah.
he missed Republic. So congratulations, Jason.
All right, Jason.
You have a chance to qualify for tickets to Scorpion and a trip to Las Vegas. Remain on hold. I'll get your information after we go to break at the top of the hour.
Good game. Thanks, Brandon, for getting that hosting card all read through. Did you ever have Shirley Temples growing up?
Yes.
Yeah.
We used to get Shirley Temples.
All the time.
And then when you got a little bit older and didn't want the ginger ale or order Shirley Temple, it was cool to order a Roy Rogers.
Oh, what is a Roy Rogers? I don't know
cherry
if I've...
Coke.
Oh.
It's the same thing, just with cola instead. That would be
That
a
sounds delicious,
Roy
honestly.
Rogers.
We would always ask for like 10 extra cherries.
Yeah, can
we get like
Can I just have
10
a jar
extra
of cherries?
Yeah, and then there was some ginger ale on top.
That's right. Well, I didn't know it was always ginger ale, but I remember it being like a Sprite or like a 7-Up or something like that. I guess the traditional is probably the ginger ale.
I remember it being a Sprite too. Yeah, so I think
And
that's how ours
you
were
felt
made.
like cool doing it too as a
Yes.
kid. It was like your way of ordering a cocktail,
It'd
right?
be
It
in
was
like a little
oh,
cocktail glass. They
of
put
it-
a little umbrella in it too.
or they had the cherries. The parents were getting a regular cocktail, and you're like, oh, Shirley Temple, instead of just ordering like a soda or something like that.
Did you ever go to Bali High growing up?
Not growing up, but I've been there. We went. It's funny. During the summer, my ties are great during the summertime, and everybody has always told their story about Bali High and how many Mai Tais that they can take down at Bali High. So, I remember my dad has a story. Apparently, the reigning champ, at least that we know, is our friend Jared that moved to Tennessee. He said he took down 7 of those things.
Ooh.
I no way.
I don't believe it, Jared.
There's no way. They have a 2-drink limit now on the thing, but before, Jared said he did that, and he ended up driving on the way home. He wasn't driving. He was like the worst he ever felt. He ended up.
I hope he wasn't driving.
He wasn't.
Jeez
No, he
Louise.
ended up at a McDonald's throwing up in the kids' ball pits at the McDonald's. It's a great story. My dad said he had one time. They had a Bali High. He had a family funeral.
Oh no!
And the reception was at the Bali High, and I think he had like maybe 1.5. And he had to
get away the sorrows.
Well, it's
afterwards.
just like it's a reception, and I think he had I don't know the exact number. He had to coach high school football that night, and he said and this was like hours after the whole thing. This was like he had it like the afternoon and stuff.
Yeah.
He said he still felt a little buzzed like when they kicked off because of how
I would imagine
how strong those things are. So everybody has told their story about how many Mai Tais they've been able to take down at Bali High.
Yeah.
So my dad's like, well, you got to go try them.
Yeah.
And so he took all of us down there, our family, and we're like, all right, let's get one. I took like 2 sips, and I thought I was drinking straight gasoline. It just was, I was like,
I can't drink them either.
Oh my God.
I mean, they're legendary for a reason.
They are. I mean,
Yeah.
I and my buddies haven't been. I was like, we got to go. We got to designate a guy that's not going to drink them or Uber down there. And you got to have one. I mean, that thing's going to knock you on your ass. And I couldn't even make it through one. And it wasn't. They do now. They have some type of I forget what fruit juice that they have. It might be pineapple juice or something.
I think they might have changed them a little. Yeah.
That you can get to kind of like cut it a little bit.
Okay.
But those things are super strong.
They're so strong. That's where we used to get when we would go, with our family or when friends were in town. Like when my parents had people in town, we'd go to Bali High, and me and my sister would just get the Shirley Temples there all the time. But they had like chicken of the gods and like all. I haven't been in a while, honestly, but that reminds me of ball pits too. By the way, the McDonald's ball pits.
Threw up in the ball pit. That
I
is
used to go in all the
disgusting.
time, and then you get older and you realize what kind of germs are probably in those ball pits.
Jared's throw up after 7 at Bali High. I don't know. Brandon
Brandon had
619
6.
said he had 6.
Yeah, Brandon had 6.
Live to tell the tale. How did you feel the next day, Brandon? 6. Dude, the one. It was tough. That is it's a fun place to be at though. And yes, I have Adam in the chat. Adam and I did. They had an event there for Megan Faremo when she won the Gatorade National Player of the Year.
Oh wow!
When Adam and I were doing stuff for Prep Insider and got to interview Megan there. I did not have a Mai Tai that day, but I went back and had it another time. Brandon 619 says it was brunch and I was passed out by 3:00. Of course you were.
It would ruin you for that night and then the next day as well.
Oh yeah, I would imagine.
At least a good 24 hours.
But now they have a
6, I'd be puking.
Now
in the
they
ball
have a
pit as well.
2-drink limit down there now.
Yeah,
But,
smart.
Yeah, it's a great view of downtown,
It's
everything like that. But
beautiful,
those Mai Tais are strong.
Yeah,
They're very, very strong.
That's one that I think like is a rite of passage as a San Diegan. As a San Diegan, if you're here long enough, you end up getting taken there and someone telling you to drink a Mai Tai. And if you don't know that they're already like how they are, you're just like, oh, whatever, and then you realize, like you said, straight gasoline. So
Bally had 70th year?
Is
Adam
it their
says?
70th year?
I don't know. That's what they said.
I don't know.
I'd have to take a look at that.
I don't get to that area enough, but that's a pretty area over there.
Well, it's gorgeous.
Right.
You're like Shelter Island and
yeah,
stuff
Shelter
like that.
Island, right.
My grandparents used to like go walking over there and stuff like that.
Yes.
Sometimes, usually like when my sister's in town or she's got to leave and we got to take her to the airport, go down to Mona Lisa, get some deli sandwiches, then go have them on Shelter Island. It's a good time, especially on a clear day. It's probably beautiful there right now.
It's been nice. We've been pretty spoiled to start 2025.
Weather-wise,
Weather-wise, and hopefully, knock on wood, I heard we might be getting some of those strong winds that LA has been getting. So hopefully everyone stays safe and over the next week or so, or however long these Santa Anas kind of roll through. But no, it's been really nice.
It says it's the 70th. It is the 70th anniversary this year. 70th anniversary of Bali High.
Oh, Brandon in the chat says there's zero mix in them other than booze. It's like 6 liquors. There's like nothing to soften it. You know?
It's just, I think it's like basically punch. It's like, that's stronger than any punch that they have at a frat party at San Diego State. I almost guarantee that's the fact. I wonder if our intruder had a Mai Tai or two down at Bali High on his way stumbling in.
Do you ever run into him anymore?
No, he doesn't live next door. His grandmother does.
And Grandma just still doesn't know that he
Grandma
broke into your house.
has no idea. Grandma came over and gave us a Christmas gift, right? And some no idea.
Grandma's like none the wiser.
Apparently, there's a little bit of story of Florida. They almost spilled the beans. That's gonna get spilt eventually, I think, in the family over there. But no, that guy I like added my brother on like LinkedIn and stuff like that. Hilarious.
He's like, I don't want to lose the connection.
Exactly. Can't wait for him to start inviting him to his frat parties.
Right. He's like, now we're family. You
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
You can't get past it.
I have to invite him to Thanksgiving next year.
That's good stuff. I mean, that was like one of the best stories. If you missed it, Braden's next door neighbor was coming home for the holidays or coming to the house next door, his grandma's house.
Her grandson broke into her house.
And he broke into Braden's house and spent the night, him and his girlfriend, not realizing after a SDSU party that they were in the wrong house. So they spent the night, and in the morning,
I wonder why there was no pictures of you in this house.
yeah, they couldn't figure out why there was no family pictures of like their side of the family. That's very, very good. So pretty funny. Okay, we're seeing what's going on in the chat. How do you spell Bali? Yeah, it's like I don't
Valley
know.
High
Valley
or
High.
Valley
Valley.
High?
It's not Valley High. Yeah.
It's Valley
Although that's a good
High.
name for a restaurant or a place.
Valley High?
Yeah, I guess.
That's Valley
yeah.
Center's version.
Yeah. Oh, Dakota's already in. Dakota's going.
Dakota's fired up.
Yeah.
Please drive responsibly.
Please drive responsibly. Take an Uber. Okay?
Yes. Do not go to
Take
Valley
a
High
ride
on
share.
yourself
Yes.
unless you're the one not drinking.
All right, we got a big weekend in the NFL coming up. So when we come back, we're going to get into that. Do you have any big plans for watching these games? Are you like going anywhere? Or are you just kind of hunkering down at home?
Depends how today goes.
Right.
With Penn State, and we'll see. I don't.
Yeah.
I got to be at USD at 7:00 on Saturday. So
we got a good slate. So we're going to run through the games. We're going to talk about the good storylines, kind of what's going on in the NFL. A little preview for a good slate coming up. I mean, it's 3 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, right?
yes.
Yeah. And then we'll also get into a little bit of what's been going on with the Padres. We will finish the last hour of the show, setting you guys all up for what's gone on in arbitration again, because I'm sure people are just popping in and listening that haven't been here since the morning. Keep it right here. Annie and Elsten, 97.3 The Fan. One more hour to go. Da-na-na-na, da-da-na-na-na. This is a great song.
Final hour.
Great song.
Final hour, but not the final segment.
Not the final segment.
So sorry, it's over.
It is not over, but it is a great song. 1 p.m. on a Thursday. Welcome back to Annie and Elsten on 97.3 The Fan, taking you all the way until 2 p.m., turning the mics over to Gwen and Chris, and then over to The Scraby Show at 6 p.m. So full slate of programming still left for you right here on 97.3 The Fan. Keep it tuned here, and we appreciate you being with us for as long as you have today. It's been a fun show so far, and we still have an hour left, so a lot to get to still.
I was freaked out about the lyric at that point.
Uh-oh.
I was like,
I didn't even pay attention, but I know
wait. When I put that in there, I made sure it was clean.
Was it the clean version? Was it?
It was I was like, nope, no, we're good.
That's a moment of panic. Although, do you have your dump button over there? Do you have to have your hand on the trigger for that?
No, it's you got to let it kind of go a little bit, and then you bang.
Okay. Bang.
Get rid of it.
Okay, as we were talking about before the break, Braden, we have a big weekend of NFL games, a big slate of NFL games happening. Anyone that you're really looking forward to more than others?
Not particularly. It's going to be a great showing nonetheless, but we're going to get you our NFL preview, starting with the NFC, since I think a lot of people in town probably care more about the AFC than the NFC for reasons for themselves that we disagree with. Anyway.
Are we going to get into, maybe if we have some time, we'll get into a certain watch party that was had or...
Yeah, maybe next segment.
All right,
I did see this rally going on. And it was some former players that still live in town. All of a sudden we're flipping the script. I'm starting to see a little bit more of the gear around town.
I have some questions to all you and to the team. I have some questions, but continue. Let's do our preview
Let's start
first.
with the NFC. I got the link on the graphic there to follow along. But we'll talk about some of the teams in the NFC. But we'll start with the schedule of the NFC playoffs coming up this weekend. Okay. Now, the first day is 2 AFC games. But again, we'll save that for...
We digress.
A little bit later in the next segment.
Okay.
But in the NFC, the games that we have coming up this weekend will start on Sunday. In fact, all 3 AFC games are the first 3 games of the weekend. The NFC game starts Sunday at 1:30. It'd be the Green Bay Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia Eagles are the number 2 seed in the NFC. Their odds to win the Super Bowl are plus 650. FPI gives them a 50% chance to make the next round and a 14% chance to make the Super Bowl. Rematch of their season opener as they will host the 7-seeded Packers in the wild card round on Sunday. Philadelphia won the initial meeting 34-29 in Sao Paulo, Brazil, thanks to 109 yards and 2 touchdowns from running back Saquon Barkley in his Eagles debut. Eagles haven't won a playoff game since beating the Niners in the NFC Championship game after the 2022 season. They'll be going against the Packers again. Remember they played this game in Brazil and they couldn't wear a certain color.
Yes, because it was
they couldn't leave the hotel.
The opponent's color. That was so long ago. That
felt like 2 years ago. That was the first game of the season. Yeah. Now, the reason for hope is their elite personnel, obviously. They got an MVP contender and 2,000-yard rusher in Saquon Barkley, dynamic receiving core of A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and a highly ranked defense. Reason for concern.
Is Jalen Hurts healthy?
He's expected to play.
Okay. Go ahead. Reason for concern.
Slow starts. Eagles failed to score in the first quarter of their first 7 games and 10 times overall during the regular season. Don't want to fall behind the 8 ball early on in playoff games. Philadelphia improved to that area down the stretch, but still ranked 21st in opening quarter points. Falling behind against good teams in the playoffs could be very costly. Stats to know about the Eagles. Prior to resting their starters in Week 18, the Eagles ranked first in both EPA per design carry-on offense and EPA allowed per design carry-on defense. They know how to rush the ball. They know how to stop the run. Yeah. That is a very key factor for playoff football at any level of football. If you can run the rock and you can stop the run, you usually make it all the way. Now, that is the Eagles. They are taking on the 7-seeded Packers, and they took a lot of hits last week in terms of the injury spot. They get a chance to settle the score from their Brazilian season opener. Head to Philly to play the Eagles on Sunday, as we mentioned, at 1:30. Packers similar position last year as they upset the NFC East champion Cowboys as the 7th seed in the wild card round. They dismantled Dallas last year.
Yes.
Green Bay also won its last playoff meeting between the teams, winning in Philly in the 2010 wild card en route to the Super Bowl title. Reason for hope, Packers do two things extremely well: run the ball and force turnovers.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Eagles. Packers are ranked in the top 5 in both categories, rushing yards per game and total takeaways. They have relied heavily on Pro Bowl running back Josh Jacobs to carry the lead and have one of the NFL's interception leaders in Xavier McKinney. Reason for concern for the Packers: haven't beaten many NFC playoff teams this year. They're combined 0-5 against the Eagles, the Lions, and the Vikings. Best win came at the NFC West champion Rams, but that was back in Week 5 when the Rams were riddled with injuries, especially on offense.
Yeah.
Quote, there's a margin of error in that is razor thin, Packers coach Matt LaFleur said, and when you're playing good teams, you've got to be better. Stat to know, Jordan Love ranks 5th in quarterback rating with a 68.7. It has been a quiet climb for Love's efficiency on the Packers team that has leaned on the ground game this season. But after beginning the season with 6 consecutive games with at least 1 interception, Love hasn't thrown one in his past 7 since Week 12, highest QBR in the NFL. Jordan Love.
That's good.
You know about the Packers, their strengths and their weaknesses. You know about the Eagles. Who you got on Sunday at 1:30?
All right, it's good breakdown, and I do think that they both match up, in terms of deficiencies, but also strengths. You got a case on both sides. But I say Eagles beat the Packers. I think the combo of the run and pass attack is just difficult to get past. It's a well-balanced team, so I'm going Eagles.
I think the Eagles are better offensively. I think they're better defensively. They got more weapons if they need to get away from the run. Saquon Barkley has had a phenomenal season. Gave him a week off to kind of rest up a little bit. Their running game, I think, is better than the Packers' running game.
Yeah.
Eagles have one of the best rushing defenses in the National Football League. They also force a lot of turnovers. Eagles at home, I think they roll against Green Bay.
Yeah.
They're favored by 4.5. I'll take that in Game 1 of the NFC playoffs. Game 2, the night game on Sunday, Commanders at Buccaneers. Buccaneers won a very poor NFC South, and it came down to the final week. They ended up getting the 3 seed at 10-7. Odds to win the Super Bowl plus 3,000.
Oh.
You put $100 on the Bucs to win. $100 on the Bucs to win the Super Bowl. You'll win $3K.
Hey, someone's going to do
in
it.
Vegas.
And if you do it, you might get lucky.
Football Power Index chance to make the divisional round 58%. The chance to make the Super Bowl 11%. Bucs made the playoffs for a 5th straight season. We'll start by hosting the 6th-seeded Commanders on Sunday at 5 o'clock. That game is on Fox. This is another rematch of a season opener as Tampa Bay Crews pass Washington 37-20 at Raymond James Stadium. This is the 4th straight year the Bucs have hosted a wild card game as they beat the Eagles 32-9 in this spot last year. Reason for hope: versatile, high-powered offense. Bucs are averaging 28.6 offensive points, 4th most in the league and 3rd most in franchise history, trailing only the Tom Brady-led Super Bowl team in 2020 and another Brady-led team in 2021. Baker Mayfield, 41 touchdown passes, tied for 2nd in the NFL. Could you imagine what this team would look like if they had Chris Godwin,
Yes.
who
Wow.
missed at the beginning of the year?
Yeah.
Reason for concern, their defense is very good. They've struggled with health and consistency. It's rarely had a healthy squad this season, especially in the secondary. While the Bucs have given up only 17 points per game since their Week 11 bye, 2nd best in the league, only one of those opponents had a winning record. So they did really well against some very poor teams.
Inferior opponents, yeah.
As for their opponent, the Washington Commanders, 12-5, pretty good year. Same odds to win the Super Bowl, plus 3,000. $100 wins you $3,000. 41% to make the divisional round, 5.3% to make the Super Bowl. Quarterback Jalen Daniels, biggest reason for hope. He won't win the MVP, but few players have been more valuable to their team. He has thrown for 3,568 yards, 25 touchdowns, and has rushed for an additional 864 and 6 more scores. He has a knack for big plays at the right time, has led 4 game-winning drives, 3 touchdown passes coming on the final play from scrimmage. Daniels ranks 2nd in the NFL with 12 touchdown passes in 4th quarter and overtime. They got Mr. Clutch in the clutch.
Yes.
Reason for hope in Jaden Daniels in his rookie season. Now the concern, the run defense. That's a major concern when you get to the postseason. Running the football becomes very, very important. Washington has the lowest ranked run defense of any playoff team, and only 2 teams, playoff or otherwise, were worse this season. Only 2 allowed more yards per carry than the Commanders also. Washington has fared better of late, holding Saquon Barkley and Bijan Robinson to a combined 20 carries and 35 yards in the second half during weeks 16 and 17. But if a team with a top quarterback is also able to run on the Commanders, it will be tough for Washington to advance. Baker Mayfield can use his legs a little bit. Commanders versus the Bucs Sunday night on Fox. Or sorry, it's on NBC at 5 o'clock. Tampa Bay's favored by 3. Who you got?
So they're playing in Tampa, right?
Yes.
So normally that would sway me, but sometimes I think for a cold weather team, I know this is, a little ancillary, but they get into some warm weather and then they tend to just turn it on a little bit. Like they enjoy it, right? So I think if Jaden Daniels keeps playing like he has all season, they've got a good shot. The Bucs have been a bit out of sync at times throughout the season. I agree with you on the defenses, but I'm going Commanders. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm going Commanders on this one.
I think the Commanders win.
Commanders
too.
will win. Yeah.
I think the Jaden Daniels effect. Now he is a rookie, so
yeah,
it is a playoff
Anything could
game
happen in a
on the
playoff
road.
game.
It's gonna be tough.
Right.
So, we'll see, but I think the Commanders get him back. It's the second time they're playing him this season.
Yeah.
Third game for you, Monday night. This game, as according to the NFL, if they need to, could move it to Arizona.
Yes. If the Fires are just interfering with their ability to hold this game, which makes sense. Remember when they did that before?
Did the same thing
right.
here with the Chargers when they played.
Yeah.
The Dolphins had to play in Arizona. They wore the all-blue uniforms.
Yes,
the only time that they wore those. And they had to move the game, I think it was a Monday night game, to Arizona. So it's not out of the ordinary. Vikings and Rams. This has got great storylines in itself, obviously, with the two head coaches both winning a Super Bowl together with the Rams. Kevin O'Connell coming back to Southern California, same with Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
Rams, the host team, 10-7 on the year. They're plus 3,500 to win the Super Bowl. $100 get you $3,500. 45% chance to beat the Vikings, so an underdog kind of at home, and a 5.7% chance to make the Super Bowl. They'll make their second straight playoff appearance and sixth in Sean McVay's 8 seasons as head coach when they host the Vikings on Monday night. Vikings, LA gave the Vikings one of their 3 losses this season. They beat Minnesota 30-20 in Week 7 at SoFi Stadium, which is where this game most likely will be played, could be played in Arizona. Yeah. Reason for hope: drastic defensive improvement for the Rams.
Okay.
Rams defense gave up 2 touchdowns in Week 15 through 17 as it made a playoff push after a 1-4 start to the season. After allowing an average of 23 points in its first 13 games, LA allowed 24 total in the 3 games prior to clinching the NFC West. Reason for concern: an extremely inconsistent offense. Scored 44 points against the Bills in Week 14. The Rams offense scored that combined total in Week 15 through 17. LA has especially struggled in the first quarter of the season, failing to score a touchdown in 13 of its 16 games in which quarterback Matt Stafford and the starting offense played. Rams averaged 21 points per game this season, good for only 20th in the NFL. Very inconsistent offense. A lot of it goes through Puka Nacua. Cooper Kupp has not really been too much of a factor the last couple of weeks. Reason for concern for LA. Their opponent, the Vikings, got a lot of balance. That's the hope for them. They can win in a variety of ways, as their offense and defense each rank among the NFL's top 10 in scoring. That increases the number of ways they can earn a playoff win. It could come via big passing day from quarterback Sam Darnold to receivers JJ and Jordan Addison, or the defense can carry the team with a series of well-timed takeaways. Reason for concern: Vikings are 9-1 in one-score games for several reasons, including well-timed field goals from Will Reichard and John Parker Romo, who served as the 4-game injury replacement. Reichard opened the season by converting his first 14 field goal attempts before suffering a quad injury. Since then, Reichard has made 10 of 16 kicks. Vikings still have full confidence in Reichard and don't believe that he is having any lingering effects from his injury. But a lot of one-score games for the Vikings that could go either way for them. Maybe they got a little lucky. Maybe, I don't know. Vikings and Rams, I think the Vikings are better. I think they have more weapons, and the inconsistent offense is not something you want going into the postseason.
Yeah, you always wonder with those one-score games, like same with the Chiefs, like when does the luck run out a little bit, or is that sustainable, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the Vikings win this one. I just think that they're a better team. Whether or not that fire, the horrible fire, provides some distractions, good or bad, for this game, I don't know, and how that might play out. But I just think Vikings have the better team.
I think the Vikings win.
And ride with Kevin O'Connell on this
as
one.
well. Yeah, Kevin O'Connell's a good coach.
I mean, this is a big feather in his cap to, get past this, to kind of continue on in the playoffs. You know, he hasn't been coaching all that long.
They
So.
lost Kirk Cousins last year into the free agency. They expected to go in the year with J.J. McCarthy, the quarterback out of Michigan. He gets injured in the preseason.
Yep.
They roll with Sam Darnold, who had been a journeyman NFL player, and now they're sitting at 14-3, and they were one game away from being the number 1 overall seed.
Not bad at all.
In the NFC.
Yeah, I think he's going to get some interest. I do, Kevin O'Connell, to try to get him to leave the Vikings and maybe go to another club.
Yeah,
you know? And
the teams want to trade for him.
Right, because first-time head coach, you know, you take a lower salary, you take a lower everything, you're trying to prove yourself, and he's putting a little name for himself out there.
That is the NFC preview.
Okay.
We'll be ready with the AFC preview in a little bit. Remember the Lions, our beloved Lions, 15-2, got the weekend off.
They have a bye.
Their odds to win the Super Bowl are plus 450. Bet 100, win 450. FPI chance to make the Super Bowl is 41%.
Oh, wow.
Not bad.
Who do they have winning the Super Bowl right now? Does it say?
I'm sure it's the Chiefs. I'm sure they have the best odds. They don't. Best odds right now, according to FPI, is the Detroit Lions at 41%.
Oh.
I think it's because the AFC might have some bigger challengers for the Chiefs.
Okay.
That they got to make it through where the Lions don't have as much.
Yeah, I mean, I am really interested in the Chiefs. They have a bye too, right?
Yes, they do. They got the number 1 seed. We'll talk about that when we come back.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk about that when we come back. We will get to all the AFC teams. Keep it right here. Andy and Elsten, 97.3 The Fan. 1:21 on a Thursday as we roll right along on the Annie and Elsten show here on 97.3 The Fan. I'm Annie Heilbrand, joined by Braden Surprendent. Craig Elsten is out today, and we are rolling with you till 2 o'clock, where we will turn the mics over to Gwen and Chris from 2 to 6, and then the Scravy Show from 6 to 7. So a lot of programming live and local left for you today, as we've been talking about all things NFL, college football, Padres. We had Jake Peavy on at 10:35, so go back and listen to the show either on the Odyssey app or on the YouTube channel if you've missed anything and want to get caught up. And we were just getting through our NFC picks, so we're going to roll through the AFC picks for the NFL games that are happening this weekend.
AFC picks. You guys got to hold it down. A lot of people in town probably care about the AFC playoffs.
Probably more than the NFC, I would think.
I would say so, probably. Especially all the people that went to that event this week. I was trying to figure it out. I saw it on KOSI.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
If you were a team in another city that had relocated to another city, why would you have an event in your former city? Like, aren't you trying? That's where all your
fans are?
I guess, and I understand that point, but weren't we not good enough? Like,
right.
Aren't you trying to get fans in your new hometown?
Practice at Camp Pendleton this year, and then they did a rally, kind of playoff rally in San Diego this week, and Stephen Cooper was there.
Oh,
he's a cool. San Diego resident.
No, I don't hold it against any players because this is
their team. You can't, because that's their legacy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's their legacy. That's their team. That's what they tell their kids about.
They're tied to the logo.
Yeah, so I don't hold it against any players.
The city and stuff too, but it's, otherwise you're gonna, like Eric Dickerson, you'll get acknowledged anywhere. Right? So it's not a players thing. But they had a rally at some, I don't know what bar they were at.
They were at some Del Mar.
No, you did the research.
I did the research. After you told me about it,
I saw it on the news.
And I did some research that the team that used to be here, the San Diego Chargers, now moved to Los Angeles, had a rally, like a playoff rally in Del Mar. And I did some research, and they're going up the coast. So they're having rallies. They started in San Diego, I guess, and they're going to rally up the coast or something.
All right.
Back to their, city that they're
going to take the route they took to drive up to LA when they moved. Surprised they didn't start down in Chula Vista, National City.
And my question is just, hey, listen, if things are going so well in LA and this is where you wanted to go, if we're going to go with the whole X theory, why come back to your ex and have a rally there? I understand there's a lot of Chargers fans in San Diego, or at least there's some. I'm not talking about you guys. I'm saying if you're the team and you're trying to, create a place for yourself in Los Angeles, I'm glad you realize that really your fans are in San Diego, but aren't you also saying we never should have moved to LA? We should just be in San Diego? And while we all know this, I think it's kind of the team is the fact that the team is doing that is kind of like, well, I guess now we all can just say what it is. Right?
Could you imagine that team right here? Like you got Fernando in the brown and gold, Herbert in the powder blue in San Diego.
Oh, Mark's got me on. Mark says Annie still follows Chargers on IG.
That's
Mark,
some serious creeping there, Mark.
That is some creeping. I didn't even realize I still follow them. I don't see them in my algorithm ever. So thank you for keeping me posted on that, although that is some
As you mentioned, any Chargers fans, it's going to end badly. It's just what's going to happen. It always ends badly, and it is going to continue to end badly for y'all. Well, speaking of, they are the first game of the weekend.
Okay.
Chargers and Texans. Now, they're going to beat the Texans.
I think they're going to beat the Texans,
and if they don't, then LOL. But they're going to beat the Texans. They're better than the Texans. The Texans are beat up right now.
Yeah.
The
Texans just haven't.
It's a very winnable
clicked. Game. Like the Chargers are kind of riding a little something of what they're riding, and I do think it's a winnable game. I will say this, okay? I think that the Texans lose it more than the Chargers win it, but that is still opposite from what normally happens with the Chargers. So, but I do think that playing the Texans is a winnable game for whoever's playing the Texans.
It's not a new era, dude. It's the same Chargers. It's always been the same Chargers. When you have the awakening and step away from the fandom that you have, you understand it clearly. Oh, this team's never going to win. Odds to win the Super Bowl for the LA Chargers, because it is Los Angeles' team, is plus 2,500.
It is.
$100 to win plus $100 bet gets you $2,500. If they win a Super Bowl, you guys going up there for the parade?
Post it.
Celebrate Los Angeles with all your Dodger friends? 52% chance to make the divisional round, 8% chance to make the Super Bowl. They will play on Saturday at 1:30 on CBS. Chargers have never played the Texans in the playoffs.
Hey.
Well, two teams that don't really make the playoffs too
Right.
much. That are making their fourth playoff appearance since 2010. The Chargers' last playoff game didn't go well as it squandered a 27-0 first-half lead and lost 31-30 to the Jags. Walk-up. I remember that. That was hilarious. That'd be painful. Could you imagine they're up like 30-something to nothing in Texas and lose?
Oh,
That reminds me of the
that's-
Broncos. That Monday night game
That's
against the
brutal,
Broncos here in
but-
San Diego. They're 24-0 at
Listen,
halftime.
I don't care what city you're in, chargering is still a thing.
It's
So
hilarious.
whether you're in LA, San Diego, you
Same
could be in
stuff.
Timbuktu for all I know. All right, so I know I'm saying that I still think that they will beat the Texans, but you just never know, right?
Reason for hope, Jim Harbaugh. In Harbaugh's previous NFL coaching stint, the Niners made 3 NFC Championship games and won Super Bowl in 4 seasons. By comparison, the Chargers have played in only 4 conference championships in franchise history, the most recent coming during the 2007 season. When they had injured LT and Philip Rivers played on a torn ACL and all that stuff down up in New England. Harbaugh, they had a lead late, too. Harbaugh's previous playoff success plus the turnaround he has engineered in getting a team that was 5-12 in 2023 into postseason gives L.A. hope. Gives L.A. hope. Does not give San Diego hope. Gives L.A.
Hopium.
hope. Reason for concern, inconsistent offense. Offense has been Chargers' Achilles heel all season, particularly in the second half of games. Bolts averaged 10.3 second-half points, ranking 19th in the league. LA's league-leading scoring defense has helped mask the offense second-half disappearing act, but a continuation could knock the Chargers out of playoffs quickly. As for their opponent, the Houston Texans, winners of the AFC South, plus 6,000 to win the Super Bowl.
Oh, I don't think it's going to happen.
That's the worst odds so far. 47% to make the divisional round, 6% chance to make the Super Bowl. Made the playoffs for the second straight season. Will host the Chargers on Saturday. This is the 8th time since 2011 the Texans have hosted a game on Wild Card Weekend. Houston is 5-2 in those games.
Oh, well, they got a little history.
CJ Stroud hasn't played.
Yeah,
in those
it's
games.
not the
Most
same
recently
team,
defeating the
but-
Browns last season 45-14.
Okay.
Reason for hope, defense is good. Houston's D has held opposing quarterbacks to a quarterback rating of 54.7. 7th lowest in the NFL. Texas put relentless pressure on quarterbacks, leading to 49 sacks, tied for 4th in the league. Reason for concern, same as the Chargers, offensive inconsistency. Texans' offense is 18th in scoring. So, if the defense isn't locking opponents down, Houston could be in trouble, like the Ravens game that they played. They lost like 31-2. One look has given quarterback C.J. Stroud issues. Split safety coverage, he has a 36 quarterback rating against split safeties. The offensive line hasn't exactly helped him either. Stroud has been pressured 35% of the time this season, 4th highest in the NFL. I got the Chargers in this one.
I do too. Again, I think it's more that the Texans lose it more than the Chargers win it, but the Chargers, wins a wins. Now, I don't put it past them for some, chargering or bungling or whatever. I mean, you got two teams that have had some good wins this season and also some really mid games. You know what I mean? And
It's a mid-off. We got a mid-off on Saturday.
You got a mid-off. And in that scenario, I think either team can win, but Texans have just not inspired a lot of hope, and so that's what it is.
It's now a tough time to say the Chargers played a 4th place schedule. Bad time to say that?
No, I think it's when you're considering who might win the game.
4th place schedule, Chargers.
Yeah, they played the easiest schedule in the NFL.
Ravens-Steelers Part 3 will be the nightcap on Saturday. Baltimore's the 3 seed. They won the AFC North last week against the Browns.
Yeah.
Plus 550 to win the Super Bowl. 72% chance to make it to the first round, 27% chance to win the Super Bowl or to make the Super Bowl. They'll play the 3rd game, Part 3, Steelers and Ravens, on Saturday, 5 o'clock on Prime. Ravens have been playing their best ball at the end of the season. That's a big reason for hope. In terms of concern, Lamar Jackson's surprisingly poor playoff track record.
Yeah.
He's always been an MVP caliber player in the regular season, except for maybe one season, and it's just hasn't been able to get it done in the playoffs. I will say, he's usually had to be the running game for them as well.
Yes.
He doesn't have to do that now. He's got Derrick Henry. So by having Derrick Henry and being able to run the ball, I think that flips it a little bit. I think that takes some pressure off of Lamar Jackson. They're playing a Steelers team that is just limping into the postseason. And I mean limping. Reason for hope is Russell Wilson, although that's not a huge reason for hope when it comes down to late. I mean, he cost them the game last week with a couple of sacks. They haven't been doing pretty well. I mean, they've lost 4 straight to finish the season.
Yeah, it's rough.
Defensive lapses is a concern. And the last time they played Baltimore, which was a couple of weeks ago, Baltimore handled Pittsburgh. George Pickens has been a circus on offense. I think this is a Ravens game, and I think they win pretty convincingly. It is the division game. You are playing for the third time. They know each other very well. They've played each other so many times. These two head coaches who have been in these organizations for a long time. I like the Ravens at home.
Yeah, I like this game. I hate the fact that they are limping in for the Steelers because I think it'd be a better game, obviously, if they weren't. But, you got Mike Tomlin over on the other side, too, which I always want to see what his game plan is. He's a very good coach as well, and so is John Harbaugh. And I do think, look, you brought in Russell Wilson for a reason. Like, this is his time to shine. But Lamar Jackson, like you mentioned, he has consistently had issues in the playoffs, and I think because of that, he's going to be motivated to win this one. Having a weapon like Derrick Henry helps him out in that respect. And I just think they have a more balanced team anyway. So I'm Ravens. I'm Ravens all the way on this one.
Last game we're going to talk about in the AFC. Broncos at the Bills. It is the last AFC game of the weekend. It is the first game of Sunday, 10 o'clock in the morning on CBS and Paramount+. Buffalo's got an 8.5 point favorites against the Denver Broncos. Broncos have they're plus 6,000 odds to win the Super Bowl.
That's a lot of odds.
And
the Broncos really wouldn't be here if the Kansas City didn't sit all their starters, right?
Well, I mean, you got to win the games in front of you.
All right, fine. Okay.
The Broncos did play, but they had some good wins in there.
Okay.
The Bengals didn't blow a bunch of one-score games, and,
it's true. That's
true.
The
Bengals would be in the playoffs, but that's what they did. The Broncos won, and the Bengals lost. 10-7 Broncos. Bet $100 on them to win the Super Bowl. You'll win $6K.
Hey.
32% chance to make it out of the opening round. 4% chance to make the Super Bowl. Reason for hope: their defense is good. Even with some recent bobbles, they gave up 27.3 points per game from Week 13 to Week 17 before shutting out the Chiefs. Take that for what it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
Broncos are third in the league in overall defensive efficiency, first in expected points added on defense, first in sacks, and third in scoring defense. Concern, 3-and-outs. Broncos offense has the third highest percentage of drives that have ended in a 3-and-out this season, a whopping 26%. The short possessions have resulted in a lost momentum and an inability to prevent opponents from flipping field position. Bo Nix-led offense has also put Denver's defense in compromising positions, forcing it to return to action quickly. Denver averages 29 minutes in possession, 20th in the league. They're taking on the Buffalo Bills, or the only team to beat the Chiefs this year. They're plus 475 to win the Super Bowl. Make out of the division 67%, 21% to make the Super Bowl. Josh Allen's the biggest reason for hope. He is having an MVP type season this year. Enough said about that. You can talk about all the stats all you want, but there you go. Reason for concern: third down defense. Bills defense has been inconsistent this season and has allowed the fourth highest third down conversion percentage in the NFL. Got to be good on defense, especially on money downs like third down. Bills are kind of in the same position as the Ravens a lot in the playoffs. They haven't had a running game, per se, that wasn't just their quarterback and Josh Allen, so hopefully they can run the ball a little bit more. I like the Bills at home with the Bills Mafia to win this game. Yeah. I like the Bills in this postseason.
I am all Bills. I think it'd be a major upset. Again, good for the Broncos if they do it, but a major upset if they beat the Bills. I think the Bills have this one, and the Bills keep riding.
I got the Bills over the Broncos.
Yeah, same.
Team with the bye is the Chiefs. They'll sit out this week. They sat out last week. They didn't even show up to Denver last week.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Chiefs are interesting because I always, and I've been saying this the whole time, and I know you feel maybe a little bit differently, which I get now because, I think that the Chiefs turn on a different level in the postseason. They just raise to a new heights.
A lot of things work out their way.
But they are riding
a lot of different rulings and stuff.
A very lucky streak, and at some point you got to wonder if it does catch up to you, all those one possession games. If that luck does run out a little bit for the Chiefs. They have not looked as good this year offensively. They have not looked as in sync. They have not looked as good as they have in previous years, even when they were kind of in that same position, like last year, how everybody kind of counted them out and then they won. But I'm a little iffy on the Chiefs. I wouldn't be surprised if they go all the way, and then I wouldn't also be surprised if they get booted out, next round.
Plus 350 to win the Super Bowl, 27.9% to make the Super Bowl. Chiefs will get the AFC's top seed for the second time in 3 seasons, and the 5th time since Mahomes became starting quarterback. They will play the divisional round against the lowest-seeded NL wildcard team remaining, Texans, Chargers, Steelers, or Broncos. So they still reseed in the NFL playoffs. So they're just going to kick back and relax, and we'll see what they got. New revitalized offense, return to Hollywood Brown. Xavier Worthy's doing a good job, and we'll see what the Chiefs have in store next weekend, but they'll be sitting out with Detroit. And let's look at the NFL preview for this weekend for NFL playoffs. We got college football playoff tonight, college football playoff tomorrow. Stuff. NFL Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It's 5 straight days of playoff football.
I should have asked you real quick, and I believe that I heard Woods say on the way out that I think it's the Irish that are fighting a flu. Maybe there's like a flu going through their locker room. Who do you have tonight? Like who are you picking for the college game?
Well, considering I'm going to a Penn State watch party, I'm going to say Penn State.
Okay,
I'm rooting for Penn State
Irish.
Too.
Yeah.
I dislike Notre Dame. I think it built an excuse, the flu thing going on. It's mostly backups and special teams guys.
All right, when we come back, I'm going to briefly touch on the Padres when we come back, just for anybody that's popped in listening that wasn't here earlier this morning. So we'll talk a little bit about arbitration, but then you can also call in for Ask Us Anything. The number to call, 833-288-0973. Give us a call, ask us anything related to sports, anything related to our lives. We'll do our best to answer. Keep it right here, 97.3 The Fan. 1:43 on a Thursday here on the Annie and Elsten Show, 97.3 The Fan, taking you all the way through until 2 p.m. This is our final segment. Want to thank everyone for being with us this afternoon, yesterday and today. It's been a good show. If you missed it, Jake Peavy was on at 10:35, talked a lot about his career, as well as some thoughts he had about San Diego and about arbitration and what a brutal process that is. It was a fun conversation with him.
And some great stories in it, too.
Yes.
Must listen.
He's the best, and always a great interview, and it was very, very nice of him to come on with us. As we talk about arbitration, and he mentioned what a awful process it is to go through, the Padres avoided arbitration with 5 of their 6 players who were eligible for that. So they had a deadline today to reach an agreement on a sum for 2025, a salary for 2025. If you don't reach an agreement by 10 a.m., the only one that they didn't reach an agreement with was Michael King. Then they start to set a court hearing for the arbitration hearing. Now, they can still come to an agreement before the arbitration hearing and still then avoid actually going to court and talking about why a player shouldn't be paid an extra $1 million or $500,000 and exposing all their flaws. They can still avoid that. And AJ Preller historically likes to avoid arbitration. In fact, he has never gone to a hearing the entire time he's been in San Diego. His whole 10 years, he, Josh Stein, the baseball operations department at Petco Park, do a great job of avoiding arbitration. They don't think it's worth it. They are able to come to a reasonable agreement between themselves and the players who are up for arbitration. So it's really been a gold star, especially for players who don't want to go through arbitration. And in fact, listening to Jake Peavy talk about it this morning, that's what they had under Kevin Towers as well. So they had that strategy. But go back to that 10 a.m. hour and you'll hear me talk about Corbin Burns and how difficult it was for him to go through arbitration with the Brewers. And that was after being a Cy Young winner. And still, you think your family with the team, you think these people love you, you think that, you're on the same page, and then you go to arbitration and all they're doing is picking apart all your flaws, and then you're supposed to go try and play for them again that same year, right, if you're not traded. So it can be a very difficult process, but the Padres have avoided it to this point. We'll see if they end up going to arbitration with Michael King. And just to run through the numbers, these are the numbers that they settled on between the team and the player. Adrian Morejon, $2 million for 2025. Luis Arraez, $14 million for 2025. Luis Campusano settled at $1 million. Dylan Cease, $13.75 million for 2025. And Jason Adam, $4.8 million. So all of those guys avoided arbitration. It does not mean that they won't or cannot be traded. It does not preclude them from being traded. They just have a guaranteed salary now. So if they were traded, the other team knows this is how much they're getting paid for the 2025 season. But still good for the Padres to get these done and to avoid going any further with any other players besides Michael King. And we'll see if they get that one done. Just a few ones to point out here, like Luis Arraez. Remember Peter Bendix of the Marlins, with the trade that AJ Preller did at the beginning of last season when he traded for Luis Arraez. He somehow got Peter Bendix to pay Luis Arraez's salary last year as part of the deal. So the Padres paid him like $1 million, like less than $1 million, I think, to play for them in 2024. Well, this year he jumps up to $14 million. So that is one of the reasons that you've been hearing his name in trade rumors, because of that salary. I hope they keep him, but we'll see what happens. Dylan Cease as well. Like when you look at the numbers that starting pitching has been getting this season, Sean Manaea, 3 years, $75 million. I don't have any others right in front of me, but the numbers for starting pitching have been in the $20 million a year range or $25 million a year range. Jason, why do I want to keep saying Jason? Dylan Cease is at $13.75 million, is an absolute steal. If a team wants to try to trade for him, if there's a team on the other side that's like, I'm calling up AJ Preller, I've got, these people, I've got a left fielder, maybe I've got a catcher that he might be interested in, and I want Dylan Cease because he is very, very affordable in his final year before free agency. That is kind of like where they're coming from if they're going to make that argument, right? So it's going to be interesting to follow. Again, personally, I hope they keep Luis Arraez. I hope they keep Dylan Cease. But these are the numbers now that teams are going to know that they're at. And for Michael King, we'll see if they can settle before what a hearing would be, probably in like February. And that's why you're seeing all that arbitration stuff happening today. It's a very interesting process, and we'll be following it now along for Michael King. Any callers, Braden, for Ask Us Anything?
No, you still got a little bit of time. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973 if you want to join the show and ask us anything. If not, don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, don't have to worry about it. But yeah, just to continue on then with the arbitration, when Corbin Burns went through it, he came out of it saying there's no denying that the relationship is definitely hurt with the Brewers from what transpired over the last couple of weeks. It can just be very sensitive, very hard to hear some of this sometimes. And so that's why you want to avoid it if you can. And just another example, in 2023, just 6 of the 19 players who fought for a higher salary won their case. And arbitration is weird too because the team puts forth a number, the player puts forth a number, and then an arbitrator doesn't split the middle. An arbitrator has to pick one side or the other side. So you're either going with the team or you're going with the player, and that ends up what's happening. But before that decision is made, the team gives all the reasons why they think it should be lower, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Charisma in the chat says, ask us anything. Annie, all ready for Monday's Salute to the Champions dinner? Yes. I actually will not be here tomorrow.
Yeah, you want to preview the Salute to Champions
why
real
don't
quick?
I do that? This will be my last time on air this week. In fact, that the Salute to Champions event is on Monday, and I'm heavily involved with it. So tomorrow, Braden's going to host solo, and really, Braden, you're going to do a great job, so no worries there. But tune in for Braden. He's going to be hosting solo tomorrow. Already has some guests lined up. Plenty to talk about, especially after some games tonight. So
Brock Ungrich on tomorrow.
Yes.
His USD Toros baseball team is getting honored on Monday as well.
They're getting honored as a significant achievement team along with SDSU softball. The Hall of Fame inductees will be Adrian Gonzalez, Sharday Houston, WNBA, who grew up in San Diego, and Jake Peavy. So it's going to be a lot of fun to have them there. They're going to give their speeches, but then there's a ton of other awards. Like there's, all kinds of stars of the month, high schoolers and college students. We have an Alex Smith Courage in Sports Award for an athlete, a student athlete who has had to overcome adversity like cancer or an illness and continued playing their sport. Doug Peabody, water polo king, all right, in San Diego, he's being honored. We're also honoring Ethan Hamilton, who tragically passed away earlier this year, and his family's going to be there to honor him. I know I'm missing some right now, but just a ton of honorees, and really all the teams come. So Padres, SDFC, I know they don't have any athletes yet, but they'll be there. The Gulls, the Seals, the Legion, everybody comes. As well as like high school and pro athletes. So it's really a good time and kind of a way to bring all sports together in San Diego. Braden, like you really don't have anything anymore where you get like a mix of high school, pro, and college and like all the different teams uniting a little bit. So it's a lot of fun to see everyone there. Yeah,
I was able to go a couple of years ago, and I thought it was a great event. That was when Rob Machado and those guys were inducted, but always a great time. And where is it this year?
It's at the Hyatt Aventine in La Jolla. So it's like right over there, kind of like by Trulux, if anybody knows where that is. Okay. Kind of by UCSD-ish, by Whole Foods in La Jolla. It's the best way I would know how to describe it.
All right. Sounds good.
Braden, you did get an AMA.
A what?
You did get, there's really no question.
There you go.
There is a question, Jake.
Might have to Jake come in. Or join the show. We do have a couple phone callers too. We have a little bit of time.
Okay, let's take
one. We
got
out to Dexter in Spring Valley for Ask Us Anything. Dexter, what's going on?
Happy 2025, y'all.
What
Happy
up,
2025, Dexter?
Hey, so I came to a conclusion while you guys were off the air. Craig is the Fraser Crane of sports radio.
Okay.
What?
Fraser?
Yeah, Fraser Crane, because he's kind of like very erudite. I made the crack about Craig should be on NPR, like that.
Okay.
Where when you two are on the show, it's good. It's very much like casual. It's very much like how Ben and Woods is, but a little less chaotic. And then of course, starting tomorrow, we got a 3-day Braden weekend. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's the question that I have for you. It's actually Padres related. Okay. So, what do you think about the timing of this? All these announcements and whatnot on social media about what's going on, with the Padres ownership and the Seidler family, because that's what I'm curious about. You know what I mean? It seems like with Sasaki and everything, it just seems weird.
Dexter, appreciate your call, and you're getting played out with the music, so we only got a little bit of time left here. I really think that the timing is just coincidental. This has been brewing in the front office for a little while. The timing just kind of came to a head now as the control person was announced. So I think it's coincidental. But everybody, thank you so much for being here. Have a great rest of your day. Annie and Elsten, 97.3 The Fan.